We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know what you want? Welcome to the jungle, punk.
Baby, gonna me now.
And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why.
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
Live at the Pacific Tigers Broadcasting Studios in the University of the Pacific in Stockton, California, Tiger Radio and Pacific Tiger Radio Network streaming online at tigerradio.net.
Dude, you're the man.
Now back to the music and the fantastic student show.
The result is for the team. It's not for myself, so it's good for us to, weigh and grind it out. Even though we didn't play the prettiest of football, he gave me the opportunity to play Division I soccer, which is what I wanted to do my whole life. It's a goal of mine to reach my dream of playing professional, and he has made me the smartest footballer I can be.
That's what I want to see. Like, everyone wants to see that confidence.
Welcome in Pacific Tiger Broadcasting Studios, JD, Jeff Dominic, Mr. Paul Meiskens, and Mr. DJ JOD, Mark Leong. Almost called you Mike. It wouldn't have been the first time.
I guess it's been so long you forgot his name, right?
Well, we've been hanging out for the last couple of hours. It kind of starts to wear on you after a while. But thank you all for tuning in. That is Mr. DJ JOD, Mark Leong. Now that we all got it correct here. And plenty of things to talk about. We weren't on last week due to scheduling conflicts. We had to work. Some of us had to work. And just other things just happened last week, so it just kind of really tied into what we weren't able to do last week. But we're here this week. That is the main point. And we're going to get you geared up for today's event. We got a big event today as West Coast Conference play starts, or what has been going on, really, for volleyball. But they are going to be home tonight for the first time in a little bit, but really only the second time this season. And so we're pretty excited that they're going to be here in order to get a good chance to look at them again. What are we at? Through 13 games, 6-7. Played a lot of good teams on the road. And we'll talk about the road-weary Tigers as it just relates to a lot of Tigers in the next segment. But what we saw against Cal, what were the good and what were the things that needed improvement on? I wouldn't say the ugly, because I don't really think that they played an ugly match. I just think that they played well enough to win, but there were a lot of things I think that needed to be worked on.
Well, there's a big one that's kind of the easiest to say right off is always the service errors.
Yeah, there were a lot of service errors against Cal. I mean, and how much do you put on that they were just pumped up to be home?
I don't let that be an excuse, because they have the service errors on the road too.
Right.
And it's one thing, in one of the games this weekend on the road, the aces were up there, but like, if you're going to have those service errors, you need to have a high amount of aces, and in that Cal game, they had 14 service errors and just 4 aces. I mean, that's a lot of free points to be given away.
Right.
Cal had 11 service errors in comparison, but they also had 3 more aces. It's, you need to if you're going to take those risks to try to get those aces, you need to at least get a few more than the Tigers get and keep it in play. A close game that both teams struggled offensively, you don't want to give away free points.
No, I think that, and especially against a team like Santa Clara, which West Coast Conference matchups are always kind of, as Coach would always say, they're just going to always be a grind. That's all there is to it. There's just no matter which way you look at it. But in the case of this matchup, Santa Clara is 0-2 in West Coast Conference play, but they played BYU and they played San Diego. 2 good teams. Pacific has played Gonzaga and they played Portland. Thank you. And they've taken both teams to 5 sets. So they've played well enough to. They took on a good Gonzaga team as well. I think Gonzaga is going to be okay this year. But they took Portland on, which I would think that playing against Portland should be from what previous history tells us, should be relatively a game that they should win, and they did win, but not in 5.
Well, but, I mean, Portland going into that game was 9-3 on
True.
the season, so that I can't tell you whether Portland's played the most difficult schedule or not, but I mean,
right.
To go on the road, it's still a road game to start West Coast Conference play. I thought it was good that they really, it was weird. I watched some of it online, and they won the first 2 sets, and of course, set 3 they lost, then set 4 they lost, and you're like, oh man, here we go. And then they came back, and then they came back and they fought their way to to win in 5. It's good to see. It'd been nice for them to win in 3, but they showed despite momentum, they really their matches, they seem to have a lot of momentum up and down just in one game alone.
What is up with the set 3? I mean, you were talking about it earlier, and it's an astounding record. What was it? Only 4 wins in set 3 this season out of the 13.
It's even less. They are 3-10 in set 3. I went through every game because I was curious to look it up, and
it's astounding.
They've got winning records in set 1, set 2, set 4. But they're 8-5 in set 1, 7-6 in set 2, and then 3-10 in set 3. It's amazing.
What? I mean, are the other teams? Are they adjusting better? I mean, what is the true explanation? I mean, is there really a true explanation?
I mean, that's the one I could give. I mean, it's not like you go in and I mean, between the sets. Between 1 and 2, and between 3 and 4, and 4 and 5, there's a shorter break, so there's less time for adjustments. But I don't know. I mean, it's just it's amazing that it just seemed. And I looked last year, and it wasn't as bad as this year's. Last year we were 7-8 in the 3rd set, but still a losing record. And it was actually it was pretty bad. I'm looking at the wrong. They were actually 12-18 in the 3rd set last year, which isn't as bad as 3-10 this year, but.
But it still is the same situation.
Yeah, and it has to be the other teams are making better adjustments during that break. I mean, what else could you say?
I mean, yeah, I get it. Last year, and fair enough, the prior 4 years to this, it was really easy for the Tigers to be self-reliant on one player. And that we talk about Lexi Elman and what she has done, and it's very easy. But this year I would think should be a lot different, because the reality is that they can attack you in so many different angles this year compared to as prior years.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it would be this year easier to just go, okay. But I mean, even going into games last season, you knew Lexi Elman was the main thing. I mean, maybe once you saw and played, you could adjust better. But it's like, you're right. You shouldn't. There's multiple options. Like that Cal game, we had 4 players with double-digit kills. Lyons, Fleming, Baptista, and Shelton. There shouldn't be that easy to change your game plan, so to speak, in the middle of the game and stop them. But I don't know, something about that 3rd set.
Was it for the last home game for
the only? To be fair.
Was it the 3rd set too, where the Pacific Tigers, which gave up the lead, or was some other set?
No, I believe it was the 3rd set.
Yeah.
They were up.
Okay.
They were up by 3, I think it was.
No,
no, they were up. Yeah, you're right. They were like 5 or 6.
Yeah, they were up for a couple points.
It was 22-18 in set 3.
So good thing that it was set 3, because that just made a good point, because they've been struggling with set 3. Like, what's the problem with set 3? And if that's the case, what's the solution, or if there's any solution with that?
And you kind of touched on it. It's like it's not like they were getting completely blown out in set 3 or anything like that. They were winning set 3 and then just couldn't put it away. You kind of wonder, because I mean, Paul may have this completely already added up, but set 1, they seem like they kind of start off a little sluggish too. And then they kind of pick it back up in set 2, and they find a way to win set 2 easily. Or regularly, I should say. Not easily, but regularly. Then set 3, they come back from a break, they kind of start off sluggish again, and are finding a way to win set 4. I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's an inconsistent motion, though, that's for sure.
Set 1, this season, they're 8-5.
Okay.
Set 2, they're 7-6.
Wow, okay.
And then set 3, like I mentioned, 3-10. And then set 4, they're 6-3. set 5, they're 2-3. They're 2-3 in 5-set matches, obviously.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so winning records, so to speak, in sets 1, 2, and 4, and you might as well just, it sounds bad to say, but their game against Gonzaga on Saturday afternoon, it was 1-1 after 2 sets, and I had it on my computer for my dad to watch, and I told him, I said, holler at me when it's about to be set 4, because I don't want to watch set 3. And they lost set 3 25-17. And then they came back one set 4 before losing in 5.
And that was probably their biggest loss, I would say, in a set for set 3. I mean, not their biggest, but one of their biggest. I think they lost. I think Kansas was another one, or Kansas State was the one that I think they had a worse set 3. But nevertheless, I mean, to pin it on one, I think that's the big thing, is to pin it on one thing. I don't think you truly can. I think that it really has to kind of go off and say there are a lot of thoughts that could be changed. But I guess the reality is that, I think that we got to give the other teams a lot of credit. And not just a little bit of credit, a lot of credit where credit's due, that they're finding a way to win set 3 and at least give themselves a chance for, if they're behind 2-1 or if they're tied, to have the advantage in set 4 and or have an opportunity to take it to a set 5 or 5th set. Yeah,
I mean, you either have to give credit to the other team or it's something really negative to us. I mean, it's just one of those things that you can't help but notice when you go to their games, that just every time out of the the third set, they, if it's slow to get back going or what, but
it almost seems like in that second set, you just don't want them to go take that break. You're like, no, you won the second set, let's keep it going.
Yeah, I know it was like that last year. I mean, and it feels like that again this year. It's just like, can we just like decline the break?
The 15-minute break?
Yeah,
Can we just do it on the 4th set at least or something?
Seriously, have that break between any other set.
We'll see if that makes any difference, because, I mean, if they do that and they go 4 and they lose 4, then we know it's something with the break-wise where...
We'll just blame the break. Right?
Might as well, man. I mean, it just seems... such a it's one thing to say, okay, well, if they'd struggle in set 2 or if they struggle in set 4, but it's such a significant drop off to go 3-10.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So significant.
It'd be one thing, like 2 and 3, 4 and 5.
Well, heck, even if it was like 13 matches, if it was 6 and 7, like I was originally alluding to, it would be like, okay.
Yeah, or even 5 and 8. I mean, that's not good, but that's not. But yeah, it's 3 and 10. I mean. Twice we've been down 0-2 and we've been swept. We've been tied a set apiece 7 times and we've only won 1 of the 7 to go up 2-1. And then we've been up 2-0 going for the sweep and 4 times and we've only completed the sweep twice. I mean, it's just, you feel like, especially like you're up 2-0. You obviously you're going great, but it's that darn break.
Yeah, seriously. So what we'll do is we're going to highlight this. This is our top story because they are coming back, or they're back home finally. We want to go ahead and really give them a push for the end of the for the end of the show, and throughout the top of the hour, we'll kind of regroup on a story or just kind of talk about the preview of this match coming up. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit. What do we got going for you? Well, we got. Pacific has had significant travels so early on. Have we started to see it become too much for them? And we'll discuss when we come back here on 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting, 209 Sports YouTube channel.
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water could culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
Hey, you still being homesick? An organization called UOPCSSA helps Chinese students make new Chinese friends here. Tons of activities are waiting for you, celebrating Chinese festivals, chatting and playing games with speaking your first language. You will feel like home. Come and join UOPCSSA right now. 我们期待你的加入。
Eric Easy E. Wright, Irvin Magic Johnson. These are just two of the many people who could not escape the horrible disease known as HIV. AIDS.gov calculated that 1.2 million people in the US are living with HIV, and 1 in every 8 of them don't even know that they are HIV positive. It is time for everyone to go to their local doctor and get tested. Let's do what we can to make sure we continue the fight against HIV, so we are no longer hearing sounds like this.
I don't want to die yet!
But instead hearing sounds like this.
I love you, Daddy!
Listen to this message. Please don't ignore. Go get tested, and the life you will save is yours.
Thousands of cats and dogs each year are housed in animal shelters. Local volunteers and workers help to give these poor animals a second chance. But they can't do it alone. Please go down to your local shelter today to volunteer, donate, or adopt. Your support can help end the 4 million euthanations performed each year on animals. Please help. Give a little to save a lot of life. For more information, visit us at www.humanesociety.org.
Attention UOP veterans. The Veterans Resource Center is your campus location for the education benefits you've earned. The VRC is located in the front of the main gym in the center of campus. The VRC has visits from VA health professionals, benefit experts, and employment specialists. So come on down to the VRC, where so does and printing is free.
Here on 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting, 209 Sports YouTube channel, JD Jeff Dominic, Mr. Paul Myskins, Mr. DJ JOD, Mark Itleong, all in the house. Thank you all for tuning in. So, as much as I would be interested in traveling and all this other stuff, and are we at a point where some of the traveling, and it doesn't have to necessarily be for field hockey specific, because I know that field hockey will come up in this conversation, but even soccer has gone through a lot of traveling. I mean, men's soccer specifically, volleyball has gone through a lot of traveling this season already, and we're only a month and a half into the schedule. And yeah, the schedule changes really quickly. I mean, we're thinking that, oh yeah, it's only a month and a half in, but the reality is that in about a month the season ends almost. I mean, but right now, Pacific men's soccer, they went from back east to back home. Now they're going back east again. Volleyball has been back, for the most part. I mean, they might as well have had a home over there in the eastern side of the U.S. The way things have been playing out. I mean,
Pacific East.
Seriously, I mean, and so is it starting to take a toll? I mean, we haven't seen it happen with the volleyball team because they haven't been home really. But I guess my question is, when is too much, and are we starting to see that with some of these guys, with these athletes already?
Well, I think it's easier because they're still young, but it still wears. It's got to wear on. I mean, the volleyball team, for example, 10 straight games on the road to start the season. Not all of them were plane trips back east. But I mean, they went to
Utah.
Yeah, they went to Oregon. They went to Utah. It's you're playing multiple games in a weekend, and in your travel, and it wears on you. I mean, even close road games. Where they like field hockey. Went to Stanford and Cal, and I went with them, or last season, I went with softball to Fresno State, and it's like it really takes a whole day. You're leaving at 7:00 game. You're leaving at 3 in the afternoon. You get up there. You're warming up. Game time. You're not back till 11, even midnight. And then they've got homework and school and all that stuff. Still, they've got to take care of as student athletes. So I mean, I'm glad sometimes I get to go along and just ride up, watch the game, and come back, and that wears me out. I can't imagine. I don't even have homework to do.
Well, you're talking about just going to Fresno is one thing, right? I mean, like going to Cal, going to Berkeley, going to Stanford, that's just one thing. But these especially in this case, the girls, the field hockey team, they're going to Connecticut. I mean, they're taking the plane ride there. They're taking the plane ride back. They still got homework to do. They still got, and they still are getting their butts worked out. In the best, for lack of a better term, they're getting wore out just on the field on its own, on the turf. I mean, I just think that it's starting to become a little much. And we're just talking field hockey. I mean, the same can be said for volleyball. Same can be said for soccer right now. Men's soccer is just, they're going back and forth right now, and that's tough too.
I think there's a certain balance, like that you got to try to figure out how much is too much, because a lot of those teams want to play some of these opponents because it's good. It's fun to travel too. Like I'm sure that
right.
They enjoy doing it and challenging against some schools they wouldn't normally face, or challenging themselves against tough teams. But it certainly can't not at least take a grind, or have some of the players not at a full 100%. Compared to if they're home for a week and they just have a home game on Thursday and a home game on Saturday.
I mean, okay, part of it might be selfish on my part. I would love to see these athletes home, these teams home on a regular basis, and I think that I speak for you and everybody else at this point. We're greedy. Sorry, but at the same time, I think that we're looking at this going, they're traveling a lot too, and that just can't be good.
Oh, and I mean,
they're conditioned, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, and the heavy travel for both field hockey and volleyball, as well as soccer, it's because they're good programs. They want to improve their RPIs. We're going to talk about that probably with field hockey more, but they want to play those tough teams, and you can't necessarily convince a UConn or a Stanford or some of those teams to come here, and so you've got to go there if you want to play them, and so. It improves the RPI, the strength of schedule in that aspect, but there's also a cost, and that's the wear and tear of playing all those road games.
Well, let's take men's soccer for example. I mean that we can really quickly easily change the subject for a second and say, well, men's soccer, they went to Oregon State that did not have a win yet going into that season, and they played Pacific and was able to get their first win.
Yeah, that. You wouldn't.
It could be lucky, but at the same time,
I mean, you just wonder. You can't help but be a little sluggish, no matter where you go on a road trip. Even whether it's nearby at Davis or whether it's the other side of the country, you're not going to be fully rested. As like if you slept in your own bed, But I mean, still, that loss was pretty surprising.
It was, and I think a lot of people were surprised. And in fact, I think that a lot of people were surprised by both the losses this season. I believe the other game was I mean, really, it was in California. I mean, so it was.
At Santa Barbara they lost.
Santa Barbara, yeah.
Yeah, back-to-back Friday night losses on the road. But yeah, I mean that was
San Jose State took them to the brink at home.
Yeah. Well, in fact, actually, that was Santa Barbara's first win came against us.
Was that?
Yeah. Oregon State now is 3-5, but still, both of those games, like this year, aren't games where we'd be like, oh, whatever, it's just a lot. Like, no, like how do we lose? You know, compared to last season. But you know, being on the road has to play a part. You're playing, kind of, the field's the same sort of no matter where you play, but there's differences, comfortability factor and.
And the reality is that now they're playing. I mean, I would say that men's team is playing probably one of the hardest parts of their schedule, arguably, because they played Oregon State and lost to them 2-0. They're playing West Virginia on Sunday. Then Saturday, fortunately, it's a week, but then they go to Portland and then they play USF and then they go to Santa Clara. They're playing away. They're gone. I mean, it's like. To me, I'm looking forward to them when they come home on Friday against San Diego on the 27th of October. But we're talking about a month away that these guys are gone.
Yeah, and obviously the road games at San Francisco and Santa Clara, they'll be sleeping here and not in hotels.
Fortunately, yeah.
But I mean, like you said, between that Sunday game against San Jose State where they won 2-1, and then their next game it's like 40 days. It's it's over a month. And we talked about it. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. We talked about how big that first West Coast Conference game is going to be at Portland. I mean, that really could be the match that decides it.
And the reality is that I think that albeit that I don't know too much about West Virginia, but I think that Sunday's going to be a bigger one because they need something to go into Portland.
Yeah,
you can't take a 2 straight loss record going into Portland.
Yeah, you don't want to. None of that, but they'd be three out of 4 games they've lost if they lose to West Virginia. So I mean, it's definitely, it's a game. You're gonna fly all the way. I mean, talk about not a short road trip to play one game. But it's a game. I mean, I don't know how good West Virginia is, but I'm sure they're solid. I mean, they're probably. You would think that would be a harder test than Santa Barbara, who was winless, but we ended up not getting the win there. So,
yeah, I mean, the way I'm looking at it, and to be fair, I mean, I think volleyball kind of falls in that same kind of category. Albeit now they're they're actually in the middle of West Coast Conference play now, technically, because they've gone 2 games deep. This will be third game tonight, but it just kind of starts to think that fortunately they're younger, they're tuned for that, but I think that even some of the professional athletes can't. I mean, I have a hard time doing it. So to think that a college athlete has it makes it tough.
Well, yeah, I mean, you always hear whether you're playing, in NFL football, for example, some of whether it's fantasy football, whatever, you hear like, oh, well, the Chargers, they're flying back and playing, Buffalo back east, like you're like, oh, well, Buffalo stinks, but that travel even for pro athletes, and they're flying in, fancy charter first class, and they still, it plays a factor.
And they're 2 days earlier. They're usually like they're on a Saturday or even sometimes a Friday where they're able to kind of sleep in and the time change is able to regroup.
Yeah,
still has struggle.
Yeah, like the men's soccer game that we're talking about at West Virginia. That game's gonna be at 9 a.m. Like that's gonna. I mean, I think that's probably 9 a.m. our time, and probably but still, it takes getting used to. You get there, you're trying to get used to that time, and all of a sudden your body's kind of not used to playing at certain times, and again that has to play a factor.
Well, another team that was on the road is Pacific Field Hockey. We'll talk about them in just a moment. We want to talk about they win a good match, then they hurt themselves against another good team. Where do we go from here? Well, we already kind of know that answer, so we'll kind of discuss it when we come back here on Pacific Tiger Broadcasting, 209 Sports YouTube channel. This is 209 Sports.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter at www.tigerradio.net.
Living in a generation where everything is sexualized, teens today are having sex more now than ever. Social standards are changing, relationship expectations and norms are so much different than they used to be, and teens are scared and ashamed to ask for help when it comes to having safe sex. But what if there was a place where these teens can go without being judged? What if there was a place for these teens to go without having to be afraid? What if there was a place for these teens to go to ask the questions they want to ask and receive birth control or health care that they need in order to practice safe sex? Well, there is. Planned Parenthood has been around for 100 years and is the most trusted healthcare provider that believes in health care for all, with no expectations or limitations in those they provide services for. Planned Parenthood is a non-profit organization that runs off of donations, and that's where you can help. Planned Parenthood is asking for donations, no matter how big, no matter how small. Anything can help. According to Planned Parenthood's fact sheet, the teenage pregnancy rate in the United States has declined to its lowest level in the past 40 years due to the increased access of birth control Planned Parenthood has helped provide. You can go online and donate at www.plannedparenthood.org, or you can also call our national toll-free call center at 1-800-798-7092. That's 1-800-789-7092. Go online or call today to make a donation and help be a part of the cause for healthcare for all. Planned Parenthood. Care no matter what.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know what you are! Welcome to the jungle, punk!
Baby, gonna let me know.
And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
Do you get excited grabbing that buttery popcorn and sweet candy all to enjoy a fantastic movie? Then come on by the Janet Leigh Theater where you can experience all this for little to no cost. That's right, Pacific students get in free, faculty, staff, and alumni admission is only $3 while general admission is only $5. And to make things even better, concessions are just $1. Movie showings are every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. For more
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water could culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Back here, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting, 209 Sports YouTube channel. This is 209 Sports. Mr. DJ JOD, Mark DeLeon to my left, Mr. Paul Meisman to my far left, and I'm JD Jeff Dominic. Thank you all very much. You know, we talked about the travels and what what both men's and women's athletes have been doing over the last couple of weeks, and we talked about men's soccer, just 2 losses that probably shouldn't have been losses at this point. The way that this team plays, that may hurt their rankings a little bit, I would assume. Yeah, considering that they were a top 25 team. Heck, they were as high as what was it, they were 14th in some rankings, and some had actually in like the top 10. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna fall. I mean, those aren't good losses. Not like they're to ranked teams, but you know, it's nice to be ranked. It'll help, you know, come NCAA tournament time. But you know, you gotta play well during West Coast Conference play, and then the rest of that will kind of work itself out. But they need to start winning. They gotta get something together here, and the same can be said for the field hockey team. But it's easy to sit there and say, well, you're 4-7, and start to go, kind of like blow it up. We're done. It's very easy for the outside fan to look at it, and then you got to look at who they played. I mean, we got to pump the brakes a little bit and realize that, hey, they beat a team, William & Mary, which was in Williamsburg, Virginia, and a game that they earned, but almost let get away from them, from what I understood. Well, they actually were losing at halftime, right, 2-1, and then they scored 4 goals in the second half. And then but William & Mary kind of came back on them, right? If I've got that right, it was like they scored 4 unanswered or something like that, and it was 5-2, and then they came back and scored 1 more or something of that nature. And my memory, hurts myself sometimes. I think that was more the other game against Boston College. Okay. And it's easy for me because I just brought it up on my screen. But so against William & Mary, they were down 2-0. They scored 2 to tie it. And then it kind of alternated goals. Down 3-2, we tied it. Down 4-3, then we scored 2 straight to win. There you go. So, and the Boston College one is the one I'm thinking of. And yeah, Boston College is ranked number 8 in the country. Virginia, number 4. And so it's not surprising. And then after that they will. Oh, they have the alumni match. That's always fun. The alumni one? Yeah, that's always a fun one. But you know what's also at the same time as that is volleyball. Yep. So I think we'll probably all be inside the gym and the alumni. But it's nice that they're going to have some time to kind of, rest up and get ready for the final stretch of the season. And the William & Mary is a good win. I mean, still they're giving up a lot of goals at times, especially on penalty corners. But I mean, William & Mary has a win or 2 over teams that are ranked in the top 10. Go on the road and beat them, and then like you said, Boston College number 8 in the nation. They've been destroying teams, and we go and we play them the double overtime before losing. I mean, after those 2 games, you look at the score against Virginia, 6-0 on Monday morning. That was rough. But you look at they had just played. They traveled back east. They had played Friday against William & Mary. Sunday they played double overtime against Boston College, and then the next day you're playing number 4 Virginia. I mean, that was kind of, nothing away from Virginia. I watched some of the game, and the Tigers had their chances in the second half. They gave up, I think, 4 goals in the first half, and they were all on penalty corners. I mean, they're giving up too many penalty corners, but they had some chances in the game on Monday, and some nice saves by the Virginia goalkeeper, and. Like I said, you look and you see they've lost 4 of the last 5, but I'm still not giving hope on going to Kentucky. So out of all this, they climb back to number 23. That's right, moving on up. You lose a couple of tough matches, and hey, I'm jokingly saying the way that this is kind of going on. You lose tough matches, and yet you gain ranking. But you won. You played tough matches. Yeah. I mean, come on. But you know what? That makes me think of earlier in the season when we lost to Syracuse and Harvard, and we dropped out. And it's like, it's like we're playing these top teams. We shouldn't be dropping out of the top 25 because we are that good. And I mean, all but 1 of the 7 losses are the teams that are ranked in the top 20. I mean, the Cal one, that was They looked so great 2 days before against Stanford. Like, they really should have won against Stanford. Lost 1-0. One of the best field hockey games I've seen. Just, I wish the result was opposite of what it ended up. But then they just came out and they looked horrible. A letdown game? put too much emotion into Stanford, knowing what Stanford playing against Stanford means?
It might have been, but I mean, no. I mean, we all see and deal with head coach Andy Smith. Like, you wouldn't think that the Tigers would have a letdown game, but
no. His attitude, his focus towards any match is one match at a time. It would be, yeah, you're right.
I mean, and I think even like the leaders like Creaky, for example, like I don't see them allowing like going in just thinking, oh, we just have to show up and we'll beat Cal. Like, you know, they have championship goals, just like I hope they do. You know, and so, you know, that loss kind of was a disappointment. You know, they'll after the alumni game, Cal will come here in a couple weeks, and I expect them to play better and bounce back. And
this is kind of a big deal right now for the Tigers. I mean, for field hockey, they got a little bit of time off. I mean, and I'm not sitting there saying the alumni is a time off, but I mean, the last match they played was yesterday, and they won't have to play again until next Saturday. Like, they have this week off, and they don't play again until next Saturday. Well, they've got a full almost 2 weeks to really kind of rest their bodies and get ready for Cal.
But I think they really need that time. I think that's good that they have that. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, you talked about the travel. They had that 3-game road trip where they went to Connecticut, played Connecticut, UMass Lowell, and Sacred Heart earlier in the month, and you know, we briefly were mentioning off air. You know, that trip this weekend to Virginia, they just barely got back in the early hours today.
Yeah, a little trouble trying to get home.
Yes, I guess they had plane issues, and they got to spend some of the night in the Chicago airport.
Oh, sure, I'm sure that was great.
Oh, some of the stuff, they looked just thrilled. And
well, they have 25. What is it? 25 girls that are just hanging out in Chicago. You know.
I think they got back in the early hours this morning back to San Francisco, and so they probably should have been back in their own beds last night, and instead they're pulling in probably a couple hours ago back into Stockton. You know, so
do you think Coach wrote the professor an excuse letter at this point?
Stuck in Chicago.
I mean, I don't think that truly happens, but you know what I mean.
Well, you know what? They probably were sitting there in the Chicago airport doing homework and studying for tests on Tuesday.
Yeah, probably.
You know, like,
can we get a makeup day? Can we do this tomorrow, please?
So, you know, and it's funny. I'm amazed sometimes at how well they're able to bounce back after tough losses. You know, and they, you know, like the Cal game, for example, saw some of them, you know, the next day at soccer, and you wouldn't have been able to tell that they had just lost a frustrating game. You know, being a Division I college athlete is it's hard work, that's for sure. And I'm sure it's even harder than I realized.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, I joke at certain points, but I also understand at certain points too. I mean, like we're talking about the traveling stuff and how hard that is on a body, and we can only imagine where it's at. But the good news is that once, I mean, if you want to count the alumni game, they've got four out of the next 5 at home, and I'm pretty excited about that. Just because it's nice to say, okay, finally you're home. Let's just kind of let's get these wins. I mean, they need to. I mean, obviously the alumni game means absolutely nothing but fun. But other than that, you got 3 matches that they're dire need wins.
Well, I mean, no offense to UC Davis, because those are 2 of the final 4 league games, but those are guaranteed wins.
Yeah.
There's no.
Well, we almost would say that about Cal, but then Cal is pretty good. The more we look at it,
we should have won against. Like, going in, it was a game I felt like we should have won.
Right.
And I will still feel that way when the Cal comes here.
What was it? 2 or 3 years ago, Cal was a pretty good, dominant team. I mean, it was Cal. It was really, there were 3 teams in that conference. It was Cal, Stanford, and Pacific. Well, Cal's kind of I wouldn't say dropped off, but they've played better.
I think it's until like the last year or so, it's been Stanford, then Cal, then Pacific, kind of the pecking order. And I think we've surpassed Cal, and we've shown we're capable of being as good as Stanford.
That happened last year.
Oh, the last 2 years we've tied with Stanford for the America East West Division title. Yeah. You know, regular season. This year it's going to take a little bit of luck to try to make it 3. I mean, now, you know, down with
no unlucky.
Yeah, unlucky. But I mean, basically, I mean, the Tigers are going to need to win their last 4 games in league play and then hope Stanford loses to Cal, because Stanford's not losing to UC Davis either.
No, I think UC Davis, unfortunately, is the bottom of the barrel in the conference. And that's not saying much, because, I mean, that's pretty much it, but...
UC Davis has no chance against any of the other 3 teams.
No.
So, hopefully nobody from UC Davis is listening and going to meet me out in the parking lot. Although if they are listening, they know they're not any good either. I mean, it doesn't take a field hockey genius to see when they're losing 7-0, they've been outshot 15-0, that they're not doing very good.
No, and we'll kind of keep track on them. I mean, fortunately for field hockey, they get a nice time off. But when we come back, women's soccer with a good win against CSU Bakersfield, and now with 3 wins this season and conference play this week, how much noise can they make? We'll discuss right here on 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting, 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Garrett Easy Right. Urban Magic Johnson. These are just 2 of the many people who could not escape the horrible disease known as HIV. AIDS.gov calculated that 1.2 million people in the U.S. are living with HIV, and 1 in every 8 of them don't even know that they are HIV positive. It is time for everyone to go to their local doctor and get tested. Let's do what we can to make sure we continue the fight against HIV, so we are no longer hearing sounds like this.
I don't want to die yet!
But instead hearing sounds like this.
I love you, Daddy!
Listen to this message. Please don't ignore. Go get tested, and the life you will save is yours.
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century in California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year, and citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running when they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water could culminate in millions going without basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
Hey, you still being homesick? An organization called UOPC-SSA helps Chinese students make new Chinese friends here. Tons of activities are waiting for you, celebrating Chinese festivals, chatting and playing games with speaking your English language. You will feel like home. Come and join UOPC-SSA right now.
She's 16 years old, but she looks like she's 25. Wearing a tight dress she'll rip off in a shady motel room. She thought this was the life she wanted. She got the money, the clothes, the attention from her pimp, but she also can't imagine living without prostitution. She doesn't think she's a victim. She thinks she's in control. But she can't leave. When she's no longer the sexy little girl they want, she may only see one way out. This girl lived here in Stockton. She's one of thousands of girls in the city who has been sex trafficked but doesn't see herself as a victim. Call the local Stockton Human Trafficking Hotline to report any tips at 209-948-1911. If you see anything, say something. You will be saving a life. And if you are this girl, there is hope. Call 209-948-1911. You are worth so much more.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Back here, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting Studios, JD Jeff Dominic, Mr. Paul Meiskens, and Mr. DJ JOD, Mark Itliong, all in the house. Man, we've covered quite a few things. We've talked about volleyball. We'll talk about that in the next segment. We'll talk about the travel woes for the Tigers and how much do we think that it's affecting the teams, and if it is affecting the teams at all. If you have any. If you're curious on what we may have talked about, just go on to the Pacific Tiger Broadcasting Facebook page, and our video live stream is up currently right now, or you can always tune in later on and go from there. But we also talked about field hockey. Congratulations to them. They actually moved up. They may be 4-7, but the teams that they've played have earned them the right to be number 23 in the nation and number 21 in the RPI rankings. It's just they play a lot of tough teams. Yeah, you look at the record and say 4-7, but look at who they played and you would understand that it's just a tough sled.
Yeah, I mean, going into the season, we knew it was going to be a crazy hard schedule, toughest, I believe, in the country, and they've played 7 teams already ranked, and there's more to come. So they're 4-7, but like I said, it's going to be a matter of them might be a little tough for them to win a regular season title, but hopefully come conference tournament time they're ready to try to win it all this year after reaching the championship game last season. Hopefully they get back and win it and head to an NCAA tournament.
Put your thinking cap on, and I'm trying to remember, and I think we said 4 was the honorable total that we were looking for the Tigers women's soccer team, right?
I think
we
so.
said 3 or 4.
Yeah,
was it 4?
4.
You got 3. There's 3-6-2 now on the season, and first things first. Congratulations on a good win. I'm going to sit there and say that this was a good win against CSU Bakersfield. They played a team that was at 500, and not only did they win, but they felt like they were controlled that whole match. It looked like a controlled match the whole time. Now, they played about 30 minutes of good soccer each half. 15 minutes, you saw that Bakersfield was putting on a lot of pressure, and a lot of great plays by Enrica Michaela, just making a lot of good saves. And but all the way through, they just did a great job. I can't find where that stuff's at. Where the heck is it?
Well, Michaela had 4 saves. The Bakersfield goalie also 4 saves. Although, again, Tigers had a lot of shots that were not on goal. It's still kind of an issue. I mean, Tigers were 3-0 all time against Bakersfield coming in to the game. And it was good to see. It's one of those, you would have thought it was a game that they could win, but certainly they're not at the part of their they're not like the men's team where we can guarantee wins. Chandler scored in the 10th minute, and then Ayers added a goal early in the second half to make it 2-0. And they're I mean, even if they don't win another game the rest of the season, I think it's been successful. Although hopefully they can find a way to get a couple West Coast Conference wins. I mean, that's going to be tough. I mean, some of those teams in the West Coast Conference are pretty good. I mean, they've got the final 9 games of the season. West Coast Conference play starting on Friday, home against Gonzaga, and Mark, were you out there at the soccer game Friday?
He was not.
No, I wasn't.
What were you doing, Mark? We'll talk about this in a minute.
Friday?
Yeah, where were you at Friday?
Let me see.
Oh,
I was actually
I know where you were, but
were you at Delta?
Weren't you at Delta?
For Friday? Yeah, it was Friday.
Yeah.
It
was Friday. It was Friday all day. Friday.
You had me questioning it after. I was like, I know where you're at.
Friday morning I had to work, so I was like, wait, what did Friday evening? Yeah,
hey, sometimes sometimes it's hard to remember what day is what day.
True.
When you've got games like a Tuesday, there's a volleyball on a Tuesday.
No, who cares, right? Who cares at this point?
I'll take it on any day, but it was it was good to see that they got the result. I mentioned they only had one win last season. They only had one tie last season too. I mean, so you've got 3 wins, you've got 2 ties over the first 11 games of the season. I mean, that's good to see. I mean, I think the best win easily was their road win at Hawaii. That was pretty surprising.
It was pretty impressive.
I mean, the home against Portland State and Bakersfield, you kind of would hope that those would be wins, but they got them, and so that's good to see.
CSU Bakersfield. I mean, granted, I don't know. I mean, I think they played Sac State and lost to Sac State. So did the Tigers. So I mean, it's kind of one of those things. But congratulations to Caitlin Chandler getting her first career goal. How did she feel about it?
We had our goal of high pressing, so we all just came flying out with a purpose, of course. And we had been working on staying on the far side, just ready for that through ball, because in previous games no one was there. So I had it in my mind like I have to be there, and it was just awesome to be at the right place, the right time, and put it away, because in practice this week we've been really working on going 1v1 and finishing, so it was amazing.
Who's she going to call after her first goal?
First person I'm calling is my dad. He couldn't make it today. He was working overtime, but he had it on the live stream, so definitely calling my dad.
So congratulations to Chandler, Caitlin Chandler. She's been fighting for him. I mean, Paul, you and I have both seen her that she's good from the outside. I mean, she's capable for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can see there's talent there. They just got to continue to improve and come together. And she had some chances over the first couple weeks to a chance or two, and put on shots. And it's good. It's good to see. It's good to see. It doesn't matter if they're even playing a high school team. Whoever their wins right now, whoever they can get them, it's good to see. And they kind of scheduled, I think, in a way where they've played some tough teams like Fresno State. They went on the road to Hawaii. Played some teams like Yale, for example, a tough team. But they also I think they did a good job. We talked about scheduling tough teams to challenge yourself, when you're going to be good, like men's soccer and field hockey, for example. But I think the women's team did a nice job to get a mixture of tough, challenging games to see where they're at, but also winnable games so they can build that confidence, going into West Coast Conference play.
Well, a big person that Coach is going to rely on is, obviously, we talked about her just a moment ago, was Henrika Michaela. And Coach, how do you feel about your goalie?
She did, and she had 2 big saves today off the top with 2 steps back hitting the post. But this is big for her. She needed this win, and she's starting to really run it out here and show what she's all about. And she's going to be fun to watch.
So she's talking about moving forward, and of course, we're already talking about West Coast Conference play. It starts Friday. Coach already kind of gave a little bit of an idea towards Gonzaga.
Gonzaga is hot right now, and we're preparing already. We already started clipping film and whatnot, but we know every game's going to be a battle. And the reality is, when we go and look at scores and we see that today Pepperdine only beat Santa Barbara 1-0, we know that we're in this. And I think it's been a tale of us not being able to finish right now, but we're putting the balls in the back of the net right now when it counts most, and they're getting a lot of confidence. And to win today without people like Samia Adams and Alex and Kenny B, I mean, this is a huge booster for our program, and it shows how positive our future looks right now with our young Tigers.
And that's a good point. I mean, no Samia Adams, and from what I understand, Samia might be out for the season. That's just a rumor, but I guess she got hurt, and I don't know much. I didn't even realize that Beast wasn't even in the game. And of course, I noticed Alex wasn't there. But for them to win without those 3 key players,
yeah, I didn't know about the injuries for Adam and whatever the issue is with Beach. But I know Adam, or not Adam, but Hussar got hurt a bit in that road game at Cal Poly, and she had a goal on the season. I mean, she led the team 2 years ago in goals before missing last year with an injury. And injuries unfortunately happen. There's nothing much you can do about it. But without those 3 players, and they still found a way to win, is good. And she mentioned that Santa Barbara game. They tied Santa Barbara 2-2 in double overtime, and I'm not sure if it was that game or the game against Cal Poly that they were almost going to win, and then overtime got forced and tied. And you actually mentioned, they played a good about 30 minutes of each half, and that seems to kind of maybe be the difference right now, and then maybe not getting a little better and getting a few more wins is needing to put together a full 90 minutes. You can play great for 30 minutes of a half, but that other 15, if you give up a goal or two, and that's going to be the difference.
And that's where Michaela stepped in and just had they were only 4 shots on goal, but 2 of those shots were in the second half were big saves. I mean, she literally would just get a fingertip on them in order to get it over the top of the crossbar, things like that. They were big saves. But the big thing that I was really impressed by, they took 20 shots, right? But those 20 shots, they may not have been on goal, but they were actually good shots. They weren't like against Portland State, for example. I think they were just shooting just to shoot in a lot of ways. These were good shots. They were maybe they were just hitting the top of the crossbar, or they were going to the left or to the right, but they were actually decent shots to be effective and put in the minds of CSU Bakersfield. And if they can continue that, this team can make some noise. I'm not going to sit there and say, they're West Coast Conference dominant. That's all. They're taking everything. No, I'm not sitting there saying it like that. I'm saying that they're making huge progress.
Well, if you did say that, we could put you in a nice padded room to make sure you stay safe.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they're not. They're not going to win they're not going to contend to win the West Coast Conference like the Mid, but they can contend and try to pick up a few wins. And if they can get a couple wins in West Coast Conference play, how could you not be thrilled with that? I mean, wins in West Coast Conference play have been tough to come by for a while, and so if they can, find ways that you're never happy if you lose, but if they play tough and they lose a game 1-0 against Gonzaga, for example, you could be like, what, we played tough, we were right there. The signs are there that we're improving. They're not losing games. They lost to Northern Arizona. They lost to Yale 2-0. They're losing games, but it's by 1-2 goal margins. They're competitive games. Even in losses, they're showing they're competitive, and that shows Coach Krupp has them going in the right direction. And you mentioned Michaela, has seen time in goal, Perry, but I mean, Krupp is excited for Michaela, the freshman from Finland. I mean, to get her, as she should. I mean, that's kind of one of her bigger recruits this season. Someone that's going to be here for years to come, and hopefully will be a part of that team turning it around.
And I think Jeff mentioned this. Well, he just mentioned it, and I believe you told Paul in the beginning of the season for the soccer, they're going to get their opportunities to shoot, and so that's what we saw: 20 shots, 15, 20 plus, all that throughout the games. One of this time it's gonna go in, and we'll see that it will slowly continue to go on with that for the Tigers. So so just to see them being able to get the opportunity to score, it's a big plus right now.
Well, yeah, you'd like to see more of those shots going in. But that said, we only scored 12 goals all of last season. Already this season, through 11 games, we have 11 goals. Yep. So the final touches, so to speak, perhaps need to be a little more polished, a little more working on. But the opportunities are there. I mean, we're at over 14 shots a game this season we're averaging, and so that's after.
I think that's 6 more than we did last.
Yeah, it was 8.5 last season, and it's now 14.4. So we're creating more opportunities. Just kind of need to work on the final third, so to speak, execution.
But that's what I'm kind of talking about. It's like I can't speak for the game against Yale. I watched some of it on the stream, but when I looked at the Portland State game, they were taking shots to take shots. 27 shots looked like they were just taking shots to take shots. But these 20 shots, the direction that they were going in, it looked really good. I mean, like the polish started to show signs of the polish.
Well, and you can improve on your shooting and not necessarily show in the stats on shots on goal. I mean, because you can shoot from 20 yards out and it goes wide just barely, and technically that's not a shot on goal.
Right.
I mean, it's a closer shot versus you're 20 yards out and you kick it 18 feet over the top like you're kicking a field goal.
Yeah, like we've seen before. Yeah.
And
truth be told, that was what CSU Bakersfield was doing.
Kicking field goals?
Yeah.
They're going for the 3-pointers instead of the ones.
Exactly.
But you know what? It's all positive progress. I mean, so far, kind of just over the midway point in the season, it's been a positive season so far, and you hope, that they can continue and find a way to win against Gonzaga. maybe the Vuvuzela giveaway will distract the Bulldogs.
Can't wait. Yeah, I mean, so the reality is, let's put it into a perspective now. We said 3, or we said 4. Are we still sticking with 4? Can we say 5?
Well, we went over and under with 4.
Did we do the over under? I thought we just kind of said, hey.
No, I was the one who put it 4, and it's over and under on 4, and then.
If we're still leaving the over under, I would take the push.
Are we still taking the push? I mean, looking at their schedule. I mean, quickly look at their schedule is saying, okay. Let me go down here. They take on Gonzaga on Friday, Portland on Sunday. Where am I going to? Oh, I won't be able to make that one. Darn it. San Diego, BYU. Can they beat USF? Can they beat Santa Clara? I mean, I'm not sitting there saying. I mean, they can beat any team at any time. But the reality, can they beat USF? Can they beat Santa Clara? Game, are they winnable? How about Pepperdine?
I mean, sure. Some of those. I mean, those 3 you just mentioned, San Francisco, Santa Clara, and Pepperdine, are probably more winnable than, say, up in Provo, Utah.
And that's kind of why I kind of glazed over that.
But I mean, will we contend? Will we play tough and end up losing 2-1 maybe, or drawing 1-1? Like I could, to get. I would hope we at least can get 1 or 2 wins in West Coast Conference play, and at 4 or 5 wins, and I think that would be a productive season. I mean, to go into West Coast Conference play and go, we should win 3 or 4 games, or I think that's asking a bit too much still.
Yeah, I'm thinking if they can win 2 games and draw maybe 1 or something like that, it'd be kind of nice, because that would put them at 5 wins.
Yeah, I mean, just to be able to get a win or 2 in West Coast Conference play would be nice. Yeah, I don't care who it's against, whether we shock somebody or we beat the worst team and we get the win. Like, just to get the wins.
That's all we ask for.
By any means necessary. I mean, last season we were 1-8 in conference play. I mean, our 1 win was against St. Mary's.
And that's when I was thinking of maybe we could, even though we're going to Moraga, but I think that the Tigers could possibly take that one again.
We beat St. Mary's to start West Coast Conference play last season 1-0.
Yeah.
And then we lost 8 straight. So I mean,
so vice versa.
Yeah, I think this season we end at St. Mary's, so we can't wait till. Let's not wait for that game to be our first
win in conference.
Yeah, in fact we do. We end the season in Moraga in November. So hopefully we can start with the win. Either against Gonzaga or Portland. I mean, to say 2 wins, probably not, but hopefully we can find a way to start off on a good note this weekend.
Speaking of good note, the Tigers are going to try and go off on a good note in West Coast Conference play when Pacific Volleyball tonight at 7 o'clock versus Santa Clara. Is this another 5-set match? When we come back, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting. This is 209 Sports.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Hey, you still being homesick? An organization called UOPC-SSA helps Chinese students make new Chinese friends here. Tons of activities are waiting for you, celebrating Chinese festivals, chatting and playing games with speaking your first language. You will feel like home. Come and join UOPC-SSA right now. 我们期待你的加入。
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water could culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
Eric Eazy-E Wright, Irvin Magic Johnson. These are just two of the many people who could not escape the horrible disease known as HIV. AIDS.gov calculated that 1.2 million people in the US are living with HIV, and 1 in every 8 of them don't even know that they are HIV positive. It is time for everyone to go to their local doctor and get tested. Let's do what we can to make sure we continue the fight against HIV, so that we are no longer hearing sounds like this.
I don't want to die yet!
But instead hearing sounds like this.
I love you, Daddy!
Listen to this message. Please don't ignore. Go get tested, and the life you will save is yours.
Thousands of cats and dogs each year are housed in animal shelters. Local volunteers and workers help to give these poor animals a second chance. But they can't do it alone. Please go down to your local shelter today to volunteer, donate, or adopt. Your support can help end the 4 million euthanations performed each year on animals. Please help. Give a little to save a lot of life. For more information, visit us at www.humanesociety.org.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop,
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
rock,
Know what you are! Welcome to the jungle, punk!
pop,
Baby, gonna me now.
and even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
You're listening to Tiger Radio.
Clear.
The pulse of Pacific.
Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Welcome back, JD Jeff Dominic, Mr. Paul Meiskins. We're rocking out little corn for you. But anyways, Mr. DJ Jody, Mark Leung to my left.
On the ones and twos?
On the ones and twos.
The threes and the fours? Or no?
Something like that. Tonight, Pacific taking on Santa Clara, and before we went to break, my computer sucks. But anyways, look, 3 straight matches, 5 sets. That's exhausting. Are we expecting it? And I know you're like, I kind of overheard you talking about it. Like, I hope this doesn't go 5. You know what? Personally, I hope they sweep. I hope the Tigers sweep. We go home. I'll have a great interview with Coach and whoever maybe the star player was, and we call it a good night.
Well, they can't get a sweep because they're not good at third.
Yeah, you can't win the third set.
Unless they get swept. That's what you talk about.
No, but I was.
So you're saying we're winning the third set?
What I was saying was, I hope I can at least hope, right?
Can I take
if they win the
over under of 3.5?
If they win the third set, do we all cheer and just like, yeah?
I think if we win the third set, we should just stand up and drop the cameras and the mics and just walk off.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, you know what? I don't think we're gonna go 5 tonight. I mean, and as I say that, I'm gonna prepare for 5. But you know, Santa Clara, we played them last year, obviously in league play. One of the matches did go 5. The one in Santa Clara, we swept them here. Santa Clara, they started off West Coast Conference play 0-2.
But it was against good teams. I mean,
true.
BYU, San Diego.
Yeah, but they also got swept in both of them. And you know, I'm not saying we're. You know, I think BYU was BYU the favorite to win the West Coast Conference?
I believe so. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe so.
First or second, they're always the top.
It's usually, the last couple of years it's been San Diego and BYU.
Yeah, I mean, BYU and San Diego probably were both projected to finish higher in the West Coast than we are. We were, I believe, 4th.
Oh, was it 4th? I thought it was 6th.
No, it was pretty high.
Wow.
And but either way, I mean, I think we win tonight. I don't know if we win the third set because we don't. I don't know. I hesitate to take us to win the third set against anybody right now, but I think I'll take Pacific in 4 because I think that's safe. But I think we bounce back. I think it'd be also nice if we can avoid going another 5-setter. I mean, especially with 2 more matches later in the week and back on the road. I mean, 10 straight to start the season on the road before that game against Cal, and then 2 more on the road. So it's 12 out of 13 they've been on the road, and 1 home game and 2 more road games. But which is gonna be nice come October. They're gonna be here a lot. But I think this is a game tonight. Maybe they'll surprise us and win that 3rd set and sweep it. But I think it's a game tonight we should win, and then hopefully at least a split at worst. On the road this weekend.
That would be good. Yeah. We're going to preview. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Alex G. Spanos Center. Considering that the game against Cal, how loud it was going into that 5th set, we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about. We'll just kind of break it down. Who do we need to watch out for? But we hope for 4, or we hope for 3, expect 4. I mean, Santa Clara, they have some good players. I mean, they have some good players.
And you mentioned, Coach Gibbons will always say, West Coast Conference, anybody can beat anybody, and
it's always a grind.
Well, and I think
best conference around.
Yeah, and it's also in part because the Tigers also have shown they can play tough against teams at times, and I mean sometimes they can go from set to set. It looks like a totally different team. They go out there and they look great, and they won. They won this weekend against Portland despite not really hitting very well, and then they looked great at the start against Gonzaga. I thought they were going to open 2-0. I mean, Gonzaga's a good team. They were 1-0 also going into that match Saturday afternoon, but the hitting at times struggled. I think the defense. I think in that Cal game we saw Fleming with a few blocks as well as some of the others. Kind of the defense.
Andy Shelton had 5.
Yeah, I think the defense kind of almost.
No, she had 7. I said 5. She had 7.
Yeah, I mean, in that Cal game, we only hit 236, which really isn't that great. Normally in a win you're probably hitting a little bit better than
close
that.
Close to 300, a little bit above.
Yeah, and that might be one of the lower hitting percentages in a win we've had this season. But it just felt like the defense kind of changed the momentum into got things going for the Tigers. Especially in that second. I mean, the first set against Cal we hit negative. I mean, of course you're not winning anything hitting negative. But then some blocks turned it around. We hit 367 in the second set. You mentioned the crowd for that home opener against Cal was probably one of the best crowds I've seen at a Pacific volleyball game in years. I mean, there were over 1,000 people. I mean, that place was really, it was exciting. And they the defense got going, and we talked about somehow they blew set 3, but they came back one set. The next 2 to take it, and they're going to be a fun team. They're a young team, and whole bunch more young recruits coming in next season. I mean, you know, there's some upperclassmen to help lead the way, but you know, I think it's going to be a roller coaster of season at times, but you know, hopefully it's more ups than downs.
Well, I was kind of there is the crowd that took effect, but you know what really kind of stood out to me was probably in that fourth set. I believe it was. I want to say it was like. It was early on. It was probably it was like 12-10, something like that, where it was just kind of like they were exchanging point to point, and there was a big block, and I want to say Andy Shelton was probably the key contributor to that block. She had a block assist, actually, and but I think that kind of changed the whole dynamic, because honestly, you get them into that fifth set, and they played like they were the best team that night. I mean, they just played absolutely fantastic, had no errors in that fifth set. So, I mean, if we can see another one of those, that would be awesome. I mean, but let's not go to 5. I think everybody wants to go home.
Well, it's not like the fifth set to 15 takes very long, but you know, you'd rather not go into a.
But I'd like to see that team that we saw in the fifth set. I mean, if we could have that there was no question we'd have a three set shutout.
No, I mean that start of that fifth set you're talking about, it was Shelton. I mean, Shelton got the kill, made it 1-0. Then she had back-to-back aces to make it 3-0, and then I mean, when in a race to 15, you jump out to a lead like that, you know, you're almost there. You know,
all you have to do is just go 500.
Yeah, you know, then there was a attacker that made it 4-0. I mean, we really dominated. It came out, you know, dominated that fifth set, and it wasn't really even close.
So, but yeah, I mean, I just think that fourth set, I think the fourth set is really when things kind of changed the momentum. You could tell that the Tigers are starting to gain it. There was some sort of big play. I believe it was a block, and I believe Andy Shelton was that person that had it. And I mean, how about Caitlin Lyons? I mean, she had double-digit kills, the most that she's had in her very early career. And she came over here. A freshman comes over here and makes a big impact for the Tigers.
Yeah, in fact, she had a really good. I want to bring up the box from the Cal game, but I mean, she had 3 really good games. She's had some good numbers hitting wise, but the hitting percentage has kind of lacked a little bit. You know, she's gotten 10 kills, but has also had 7 errors. You know, which is
not what you want.
No, but I mean, so against Cal, for example, you know, Lyons was second on the team with 12 kills. She had 241. She then at Gonzaga went and had 13 kills. Still hit 200, which isn't bad. And then at Portland, she had 15 kills, hit 195. So I mean, she double-digit kills in all 3 games, and really the first couple of weeks, I don't think she really played a whole lot. I mean, I think injuries kind of gave her a chance or two, or she'd play a set or two, but you know, it looks like she's becoming more of a weapon for the team this season.
You know, and it was kind of one of those things where I think when we were talking about when the season first began, we were concerned with the rotation that Coach Gibbons has. And he doesn't use a big rotation. He never really has, but we thought. I mean, to me, I thought the bench was going to be very limited on what he could do. But right now, it's looking like that bench is actually. I mean, the rotation he's got has been very effective. I mean, he doesn't put Caitlin Lyons on there. He's not putting her out there to like he did with some of his other players last season. I've been able to rotate them fairly evenly.
Well, and I think you kind of have to. I mean, we talk about the bench. There's not much of a bench for. With just 11 healthy players. I mean, they have 12 on the roster, and you know, Klein's out for the season. You know, so it's. You don't really have a whole lot of options to begin with, you know, and so you need, you know, I think the Scriver getting injured and Shelton kind of setting for a few games allowed Lyons to get more time in there, and I don't want to pretend like I know what head coach Greg Gibbons is thinking, but I think that perhaps despite the hitting percentage struggling a bit, he saw, you know what, Caitlin Lyons, even though she's a freshman, she can be in there and making an impact, and you know, the two the two freshmen that they really have been making an impact so far this season, both DeScriver and Lines.
DeScriver, she played.
Or DeScriver, I still not 100%.
I still like DeScriver, but I don't want to. I'd hate to.
You should just go with Hannah.
Hannah's perfect.
Hannah and Caitlin.
But what I saw. Here's what I'm seeing, and it happened again against Gonzaga. I'm seeing like I was talking to Coach after the game against Cal, and he was talking about Andy Shelton being able to play the opposite, being able to be a setter, being able to be in the back. She's been able to play. She played different roles last week. That game against Cal, and she's enjoyed it. And part of it is also I'm watching Hannah. She only had 28. She had 28 assists in the match against Gonzaga. I'm wondering if Coach likes playing that style of offense, and wondering if he's adjusting to that a little bit in order to let Andy have a little bit of joy to play in different areas, because she likes being a setter. She's good with playing as the opposite, but allowing Hannah and being able to kind of rotate that a little bit. I'm wondering if he's kind of enjoying that, and I understand Hannah's still dealing with the knee issues and stuff like that, so she's still fighting, coming back to full strength. But I'm wondering if this is something we'll see for the rest of the season moving forward.
Well, and I think you just mentioned about Shelton liking to play all over the court. In that game against Gonzaga that they lost in 5 sets, Shelton had a triple-double in that game. She actually had 33 assists compared to Hannah's 28, and then Shelton also had 11 kills and 14 digs. So I mean, it shows that she can set, kill, whatever is needed. I mean, she can be in there at the same time as DeScriver, or she can be in there with Hannah not in there and be the setter.
She hit 360. Andy did. Yeah,
I mean, she had a great game against Gonzaga. It was unfortunate that the Tigers ended up losing that one in 5. But I mean, it's good that I think it's nice when you have two players on the court that are such good setters, because it makes it harder to predict, for the other team what's coming. I mean, and talking about the Gonzaga game, since that's the one that we're talking about Shelton with the triple-double. I mean, you had Baptista with 17 kills, Fleming in the middle with 10, Wine with 9, Lines with 13. I mean, it's Felcher even had 8 kills. I mean, that's a pretty good game for her. I mean, the more you have players that can do multiple things, and they're not just one trick ponies, so to speak. It can only help.
Where do we? I wanted to take a break, but I want to ask this question, because the forgotten person, I think, in a lot of ways, and I have concerns with her, but at the same time, I know that she'll figure it out. I have a feeling she'll figure it out. Is Skylar Wine, and she's kind of like been that forgotten person in a little ways, because we've all talked about what Ashlyn Fleming is going to do. We know what Emily Baptista is going to do. We're surprised. I wouldn't say surprised, but we're excited about what Andy Shelton has done. And Caitlin Lines is a freshman that's coming on strong. But Skylar Wine is she's had her struggles so far the last few weeks. I shouldn't say she's had her struggles this season, but over the last couple of weeks, she definitely has.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't had double-digit kills in the last 5 matches, and that was after she started the season with 22 against Kansas State. I mean, we saw it last season from her. She started out the season, her and Baptista and Fleming kind of were like, whoa, the big three. The big three,
yeah.
The Hudson Mulder Zito, if you're an A's fan, so to speak. And you kind of saw as the season went on, that's still going to be an issue for me. Wine and Lines, and they both are very, you can tell them apart, but quickly when they're playing, they look similar. It's with their blonde ponytails. But Wine this season started off. She had 22 kills against Kansas State. She had three straight games, 13, 14, 12 kills, then 7, 14, 10. So I mean, she was off to a great start the first 9 games of the season. I mean, double-digit kills in 6 of the first 8, and since then she hasn't had more than 9. But it's kind of been the hitting percentage. She's hit under 200. I mean, she'll get opportunities. She just needs to, cut down on the attack errors a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Well, I mean, we think about this too. They're asking her to do something which is. She went from playing an opposite last year. Now she's back outside. She's familiar with the outside, which is great. But at the same time, she's having to readjust herself in her sophomore year because she's playing a different position than what she was used to last year. Now she's having to play the outside in a D1 level.
Yeah, I mean it's a different look of the court, so to speak.
Right.
But I mean the net's still the same height.
Yeah.
You know, the silent. You know,
it's
perhaps
a different level though.
Perhaps it's a little different hitting, different way. You know, different ways. I mean, I'm not.
He's playing up against trees as compared to Division I. You're playing against trees.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're 6'4" and above.
Oh yeah. It could almost be a basketball team.
Seriously.
But I mean, it is a different look. I mean, we've seen at times she can be just as capable of taking over a game for the Tigers offensively as anybody else. Just the consistency, perhaps a little lacking so far, but maybe tonight not only do we win a third set, but she has 15 kills. I mean,
and I'm interviewing her later. I mean, yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be it would never be a surprise if tonight, Skylar Wine has 15 kills to lead the way. I mean, it wouldn't be something that we would be shocked like if Petnicki had 12 kills.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be something that we
backtrack a little bit. Petnicki is she's what 5'3". I think I'm being nice.
You two are very comparable in height.
Yeah.
Not so much in other ways.
Well, thank goodness. Thank goodness for that.
But no, I mean it would. But my point of that is it would not be a surprise to see Scarlett Wine have a big night any night and have a big kill number, and it would be nice to see her have more of those and add even more balanced offense for the team.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll talk a little bit more about this at the top of the next hour. But when we come back, I wanted to talk about this, and it's the fact of the matter that there's an FBI investigation. Thank goodness not with Pacific. But there is an FBI investigation regarding men's basketball, and we just got to dive into it when we come back. Pacific Tiger Broadcasting.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
She's 16 years old, but she looks like she's 25. Wearing a tight dress she'll rip off in a shady motel room. She thought this was the life she wanted. She got the money, the clothes, the attention from her pimp, but she also can't imagine living without prostitution. She doesn't think she's a victim. She thinks she's in control, but she can't leave. When she's no longer the sexy little girl they want, she may only see one way out. This girl lived here in Stockton. She's one of thousands of girls in the city who has been sex trafficked but doesn't see herself as a victim. Call the local Stockton Human Trafficking Hotline to report any tips at 209-948-1911. If you see anything, say something. You will be saving a life. And if you are this girl, there is hope. Call 209-948-1911. You are worth so much more.
San Francisco SPCA, a non-profit animals shelter which is to save and protect animals, provide care and treatment. In 2015, the leave release rate for the entire city of San Francisco reached 93%. We imagine a community where every animal has a loving home, where animals don't need the support of San Francisco's recluse and shelters. The SFSPCA is an independent, local non-profit that receives no government funding and is not part of any national organization. We rely on your support. Come to join us. We can't do this without you. You can go to www.sfspca.org to donate or contact us 415-554-3000.
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water could culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop.
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
Rock.
Know where you are! Welcome to the jungle, punk!
Baby, gonna me now.
And even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
You're listening to Tiger Radio.
Clear.
The pulse of Pacific.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Whoops, almost messed up there. I kind of did. But anyways, welcome back. JD, Jeff, Dominic, Mr. Paul Myskins, and DJ JOD, Mark Itleong, all in the house.
Can I mention my Twitter is @that'sanair, since I'm now Mr. Paul instead of @that'sanair?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
All right, well then, Twitter, @that'sanair.
Congratulations. There you go. There's the plug. Anyways, big news coming out, and this came out very early this morning. I was watching it. I saw it about 9 o'clock this morning, and then it's a big news story on ESPN. I kind of kept an eye on it from there. Right now, it's showing 4 assistant coaches from Arizona, Auburn, Oklahoma State, and Southern California were arrested Tuesday morning on federal corruption charges, and that might only be the tip of the iceberg in a 3-year FBI probe that focused on coaches being paid tens of thousands of dollars to steer NBA-bound players towards sports agents, financial advisors, and apparel companies. They're saying that upwards of 10 different schools, I believe they were saying, is the focal point of 10 coaches. I'm sorry, not 10 schools, 10 coaches.
Well, 10 people, actually.
Yeah, upon fraud and corruption in the NCAA. This is a big kind of deal for the NCAA, and it's a bad situation right now.
Well, yeah, I think it's a bigger deal for the people that are arrested. Like, that's, it's one thing, stuff happens in sports that, ends up getting guys fired or schools in trouble, but, like, to do something to get arrested, that's a little more extreme.
Right.
I don't think any of this is that shocking that it happens. To think agents try to bribe players to, I'll give you...
It happens daily.
Yeah, I think it probably happens... Like I said, multiple times a day, there's players that they're getting paid hush, under the understanding that, once they graduate and go pro that I can represent you or you're going to come represent us. And, sports is a business. And, unfortunately, no matter the business, there's going to be people that are going to try to take advantage of situations for themselves, anyway, legal or illegally. And, coaches, players, or people from apparel companies are listed. It's not. I don't think it's a total shock, but it's still it's still a pretty big story.
It's a big blow in the aspect of people. If your eyes weren't open before, they need to be open now. And this is from ESPN.com. Each of the coaches were charged with bribery conspiracy, solicitation of bribes, honest services fraud conspiracy, honest service fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and travel act conspiracy. And the U.S. Department of Justice said each of the coaches faces a maximum sentence of 80 years in prison if convicted.
Yeah, it's funny to think about that kind of stuff and those kind of terms, because it's like, you hear, like I've heard of, and I'm gonna avoid saying the name because I don't want to cause any problems, but it's like there was a top college basketball recruit, a girls basketball player a year or two ago, and she held off her decision on where she was going to go for a long time. I mean, she was being recruited by all the UConns and all the other schools, and and then it came out that her high school coach, who's also her AAU coach, might be was potentially going to be hired as an assistant coach for a major Pac-12 team. And what do you know? That school was also one of the schools that she was considering going to. And it's like, very easily could have seen, coach gets hired, is now an assistant coach for a Pac-12 school, and and here comes the player right behind. I mean, to think there's not some sort of, influences and stuff. I mean, it absolutely goes on. I mean, but I mean, to a certain point, there's ways of it being legal and not, and obviously taking $20,000 and trying to, convince a kid to go to a certain school because you got paid for it, that's another story.
The FBI also arrested James Gatto, Director of Global Sports Marketing for Adidas, Merle Code, another Adidas employee, Christian Dawkins, a former NBA agent, Munish Sood, and I apologize if I butchered that name, but at this point you're probably going to jail, so a financial advisor. I think there's a lot more that you have to be worried about than some random guy saying your name wrong. Jonathan Brad Augustine, president of the League Initiative and program director of the Adidas-sponsored One Family AAU program, and Rashawn Mitchell, a former NBA official who founded Thompson Bespoke Clothing, a custom clothier for athletes.
Yeah, although if he's listening in the holding cell, send a message, let us know.
Yeah. And if that's the case, you can send me a message. I still don't care. No. I'm sorry, you screwed up. If you're in jail, you were there for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, obviously if the FBI is getting involved in something, it's a big deal. They're not going to waste their time, with minor things. So, I mean, I'm sure, like, like it says, the tip of the iceberg is what is said, and, I'm sure it's when all's said and done, there's going to be a lot more people and a lot more trouble than just these 10.
Yeah, I mean, and like reading some of the stories, and this is the second one. You brought the ESPN one to mind, but I was reading another story off of a different site. I will refuse to say the name for reasons that I just don't want to put any names out there. But what they were implying was saying, well, you can obviously tell that if these programs are involved, that there has to be bigger programs involved. And I'm like, well, the possibility's there, but let's not speculate anything yet. I mean, why are we going to put a name out there? If we put another name out there, and I'm not going to, but if we put another name out there and they have nothing to do with it, that's bad juju.
Yeah, well, then you get yourself in trouble for slander and other kind of things. But I mean, I
can go by with what we know right now.
Yeah. Well, and the one FBI assistant director was like basically warning coaches in schools, like, we know what's going on, and we're still looking into schools, and I guess they did an undercover operation, and I'm sure
starting back in 2015 is when this all started.
Yeah, so if they've been doing it for a few years, I mean, if you're doing it still, you better stop and hope that they you aren't caught already.
Yeah, if you're not caught already, stop. I mean, and even if that's the case, it's like you almost have to have a feel of guilt right there. You almost want to. I mean, I would almost want you to turn yourself in. But
yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry I screwed up.
I mean, in the one story that we both were kind of reading and looking at on ESPN. I mean, it includes a complaint against a reference to a public research university located in Kentucky, like obviously hinting at Louisville, and then it was also a reference to a private research school in Florida, which in the ESPN article, they think it believes to be University of Miami. I mean, it's, and then the Louisville received notice that it's included in a federal investigation, and most of the schools that are probably going to be brought up in this scheme, so to speak, or this investigation are going to be the bigger schools.
And that sucks. I mean, and I'm not sitting there saying that it sucks for the for Louisville of who did wrong, and assuming and with what's going on over there, but they've gone through a little bit of kind of issues as already. I mean, they've already gone through the prostitution sort of scandal that was kind of going on. Now if this may be something that if they're included in this situation, that could be all sorts of bad. I mean, and I only feel bad for certain people like the athletes. I don't think of I could care less of the coaches and the people that were involved. I'm talking about athletes. Well, I feel bad for those guys.
Well,
you know what I mean?
The ones that are innocent victims, absolutely. I mean, there's going to be some players that are all said and done, they're going to be in trouble too for taking money for going places and all that stuff too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, part of the story is one was about a player that supposedly got $150,000 to go to a certain school from a shoe company being part of it. I mean, like, look, there's no doubt this stuff probably even more than this story, between, schools, apparel companies, like all sorts of stuff. And perhaps you would hope, this might get worse before it gets better, but hopefully.
And all signs are pointing that direction.
Yeah, I mean, this probably will get much worse. I mean, but that said, maybe then it can start getting better and it can stop being all this shady under the table kind of stuff that goes on in sports, because sports is such a big business, whether it's pro level, college level, high school level, youth level. I mean, sports, and it's not just the big sports. I mean, it's any sport, any level. Sports are a business, and it needs to, obviously the FBI decided that they needed to step in.
And it kind of makes you wonder where this kind of spurned on. How did they? Why did they decide to start this investigation? I think they had an inkling, like certain funds were getting transferred in certain ways, and they kind of were like, something doesn't feel right here.
I think it was kind of an easy thing to finally be like, all right, you know what? There's too much that's probably going on. I think most people think that there's stuff like this that are going on.
They just got to track the money at this point.
Yeah, and you're talking about some of these big amounts, and that are just like, it's hard not to miss. It's hard to miss.
$1,000 maybe, and I'm talking about for you and me, $1,000 wouldn't be hard to miss. $1,000 to a school would be hard to miss. Yeah. But when you start talking about $150,000, 10s, 20, 30, 10s to $100,000, you start to go, oh, we better take notice.
Yeah, and you
dummies. I mean,
I could easily give you $100. I can't really, but schools, for example,
you give me $100,
could quietly give you $100, and nobody would really know anything.
Right.
No, there's no giving anybody $100,000 quietly.
No, there's not.
Player not keeping $100,000 under his mattress and not telling nobody.
No, and so just by looking at this, where was the? There was a FBI director, Bill Sweeney, had a warning Tuesday for other and this is what we're talking about, other coaches who might be involved in similar schemes, saying, "We have your playbook. Our investigation is ongoing. We are conducting additional interviews as we speak." So the FBI and the U.S. Attorney Office said that they have established a hotline for information related to the investigation. They're not playing. Yeah, I mean, that just kind of just basically says, we know what's going on. If you're doing it, you have your opportunity to cut it off at the head.
Yeah, you better either come clean and hope we're lenient, or stop and hope we don't already know, because
there's a good chance we know.
Yeah, but I think you have assistant coaches at schools trying to do their part because they want to keep their job and have their team do well and get paid more, and so they're trying to make sure they get players to come. And I think it's a bad time that coaches think that that's okay, they can get away with it, and the players think that it's okay to, whoever wants to give me more, I'll come to kind of like that movie Blue Chips.
Remember that movie? Yeah, I remember it.
Like, hey, give my dad wasn't that one guy, he wanted a tractor or something for his family's farm, and then he came to the school, there needs to be the change in thinking that that's okay for multiple different people involved.
And let's put it this way. recruiting sucks. It's hard. It's probably one of the hardest things that a coach will have to do, whether you're the head coach in charge of the recruiting or if you have an assistant coach assigned to it. I remember taking it back close to home, Coach Bradley Davis. He was he may have been the assistant coach for Lynn Roberts, but he was also in charge of a lot of the recruiting. I mean, he still is.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think all the coaches and some, I think it was last weekend, I saw tweets, all the coaches were all headed different places to scout and watch games. I mean, they're all responsible for trying to get players, a lot of it is building relationships with those players and getting them to feel comfortable coming to a school.
There's that, yeah.
But no, I mean, if you don't get good players in, the team doesn't do well. What normally happens after a few years? They get rid of the coaches.
Yeah.
And so the pressure's there, but the pressure needs to be there, but not take, the relief to that pressure shouldn't be handing over cash to get some kid to come to a school.
So what kind of penalties are we going to see, out of this whole situation? What are we expecting from, of the schools that we know are named already, I believe USC was one of them, Arizona was another, a couple of Pac-12 obviously, USC, Arizona, Auburn, Oklahoma State, where the assistant coaches were named off these schools. What kind of big impact is that going to happen to these schools? And what can we see? I think as far as their reputation for athletes and stuff, I don't think really it's going to matter. No, I'm talking about NCAA.
But yeah, the school's going to get punished. There's the typical losses of scholarships, forfeits of games, fines. But ultimately, most of these bigger schools, at least,
they won't blacklist them.
Yeah,
you're not going to get blacklisted. But.
No, especially when it's the assistant coaches, and they might have even been. I'm sure there's some cases where they're just doing what they were told, and now they're going to get.
They're getting the bad end of it, yeah.
But the schools will all get punished to some extent, although certainly there's times where it feels like those big schools get away with stuff. Aren't as punished as hard as, say, a smaller school would be if they did the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. So they'll get punished to some extent. The biggest punishment will be for these people that are facing, jail time.
Yeah, 80 years in prison. I'm good.
Yeah,
I don't see that really truly happening all the way through. I'm sure there'll be some sort of plea agreement, stuff like that.
There'll be guys pleading for their lives.
Bargains, yeah.
They'll be taking a knee, but not because it's the anthem. They'll be.
Hello.
They'll be pleased, and
that reference was made by Paul Meiskens. He can be reached on @that'shere. I know.
Yeah. Hey, I went to the A's game. I saw Bruce Maxwell taking a knee last night.
Yeah.
But but you know what the thing is I bet some of them will plea, and in turn they'll spill the beans, right? And other people will get in trouble, and
it'll be a vicious circle.
The momentum, the snowball rolling down the hill, it's gonna get bigger and bigger before it smashes into a wall and it's over.
It starts off like a vegetable pea, and it just winds up eventually ending like a boulder.
We're gonna hear about this story for quite a while. It's just the beginning, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Keep tracking on it. Let's see, what do we got here? We've talked. Wow, I couldn't believe I was actually surprised on how long that segment actually went.
Delta?
Let's do Delta. Let's do some Delta talk. When we come back, let's talk. I know, Mark, you were over at Delta Volleyball over the last few days. Actually, you were over there on Friday. Better be specific, because I didn't want to offend you in any way, shape, or form there. Nothing new, but I know. But anyways, when we come back, we'll get into it. More to come. 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Eric Easy Wright, Urban Magic Johnson. These are just two of the many people who could not escape the horrible disease known as HIV. AIDS.gov calculated that 1.2 million people in the U.S. are living with HIV, and 1 in every 8 of them don't even know that they are HIV positive. It is time for everyone to go to their local doctor and get tested. Let's do what we can to make sure we continue the fight against HIV, so we are no longer hearing sounds like this.
I don't want to die yet!
But instead hearing sounds like this.
I love you, Daddy!
Listen to this message. Please don't ignore. Go get tested, and the life you will save is yours.
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water could culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
Are you a movie fanatic? Do you get excited grabbing that buttery popcorn and sweet candy all to enjoy a fantastic movie? Then come on by the Janet Leigh Theater where you can experience all this for little to no cost. That's right, Pacific students get in free faculty, staff, and alumni admission is only $3 while general admission is only $5. And to make things even better, concessions are just $1. Movie showings are every
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop,
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
rock,
Know what you are! Welcome to the jungle, punk!
Baby, gonna me now.
and even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
Attention UOP veterans. The Veterans Resource Center is your campus location for the education benefits you've earned. The VRC is located in the front of the main gym in the center of campus. The VRC has visits from VA health professionals, benefit experts, and employment specialists. So come on down to the VRC, where sodas and printing is free.
You're listening to Tiger Radio.
Clear.
The pulse of Pacific.
Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Welcome back. JD Jeff Dominic, Mr. Paul Myskin's all the way on the far left here, and then also you have Mr. DJ JOD, Mark Leong. And Mark, I've noticed you haven't put yourself on camera once today. There he is! Look at that! Wait, go back!
No,
go back!
more.
Come on! Go back! Go back!
He also sat up in his chair. I think it's because it's Delta time.
It is Delta time. Mark, while I was over there, now, Paul, I'm going to ask you before we get too far ahead of myself here. You were out and about. You do stuff with Comcast. You were out. Where were you out on Friday?
I was in the beautiful city of San Ramon.
Okay. What game?
It was San Ramon Valley against California High School.
Good game?
Sort of. I mean,
better than the Saturday game, the St. Mary's and.
Oh, but you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. But my game was actually pretty good. It was two teams that were 3-0. San Ramon Valley hadn't beaten California in 4 or 5 years, and they went in and they won at Cal. It was a good competitive game. It didn't involve players that were overly exciting on the national level like St. Mary's had to face on Saturday. But it was a good game, and the money's always nice as well.
Of course. Nice little travel time and everything else. Friday.
Wait, before any other Cal High sports or just high school football news that you want to throw in before we might forget?
St. Mary's.
Well, yeah, St. Mary's played at Levi Stadium on Saturday against #1 in the state and nation modern day, and I think I messaged both of you guys. There was a tweet by Max Prep saying, "Does St. Mary's have a chance?" And I wanted to respond at keeping it within 30, because I think it ended up 52-14 was the final. It was 52-7 middle of the third. It's just a different level of high school football. The talent, the elite, the St. Mary's star running back could go to Sac State. Wow, the USC quarterback, the modern day quarterback could go to USC, or it's just a different level of talent, depth as well. St. Mary's is still a good program, so Mark, don't worry. St. Mary's will be all right. I know that concerns you.
They're going to bounce back.
St. Mary's is still the best.
Took an L, now they'll bounce back.
Yeah, they've lost twice now. Once to Modern Day and once to Central Catholic, but they're still the best high school football team in Stockton. They'll be all right. They'll be in the mix come playoff time, and we don't count last week's game because that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Look, anybody, you know what? Even De La Salle would have lost to Modern Day. So
even if they played like the third string quarterback, they'll still.
Yeah, it
might have been a little closer, but that's about it.
Yeah,
probably the third point would work, but beside that, yeah, no.
Yeah, it's fine. Like I said when I saw that they were going to play at Levi's, it's like I hope they enjoyed getting to play in the Niner Stadium, but
that's not all they're getting.
It was almost like it was worse than a Niner Patriot game might be.
Yeah. Now, and Friday we've already kind of discussed where I was. I was over at Pacific at Knowles Field during the Pacific match, the soccer match against CSU Bakersfield, and Mark was over at Delta. He was watching the volleyball match against American River College, and to no surprise, Delta pretty much dominated. What was it? 25-18, 25-9, 25-13. Pretty good game. What did you see? Obviously we saw did we see what we expected to see? It sounds like there was one player that was really a big surprise.
I don't think one player. To begin with, there's something that I saw from this game, from the last several games, is the communications is actually starting to show right now. Mm-hmm. People are actually talking. Even Kylie Urban Paz, she was starting to talk more.
She struggled this week. Or Friday.
Not struggle. Because everyone else stepped up. It might look like she struggled.
I know, I'm going by paper.
Yeah, but I'm saying really, if she struggled, someone else is picking up her
slack.
Her slack. So, but beside that, the point I was trying to get is her vocal was there now compared to before, where it's more quiet. Now you could hear people screaming more, telling people where to stand or where to go when it comes to before the play call happens. Which I see that was something different from the last couple games that we were able to watch. Yeah, it was a 3-0 set. I think the set that they not really struggle, but I really had a hard time was the third set. Even though they won 25-13, there was a point where they could close out early in the game, but they struggled to finish it off. There was 22-9, and American River College was able to score at least 4 or 5 points straight before they called a timeout.
But at least they won the third set, right?
I know it's very rare that you're used to winning that third set. We're used to it over at Delta.
But
you're never allowed to come back because apparently they win when you're not around.
Yeah, that was. Well, they also don't play.
They played one of the best schools. I'm sorry, but yeah.
They also don't play the state champs every day.
Yeah, they play teams like American River College a lot.
Yeah, which are probably ones that they should win, like they did.
Oh yeah, yeah. Historically, yeah, they're used to beating teams like that. Sac City's another one. Cosumnes River's another one. It's just. We're used to seeing that happen. Now, Santa Rosa, they did fight against them a couple of years ago, or last year. There's a couple of good teams in the Big 8, for sure. Who are they playing? They're coming up to their match.
They play tomorrow night against Diablo Valley College.
I'm gonna miss part of that because remember I was telling you I'm gonna be gone.
What about you, Paul? You planning to stop by? It's a Wednesday night game. There's nothing else going on Pacific side.
I'm trying to think what I actually might.
Okay.
I'll be at Delta earlier in the day, but that's for class and not
for class related. Yeah,
that's for class and not for fun. But I might try to go. Wednesday might actually work.
Yeah, they're currently in a 4-game winning streak, and American River College is currently in they lost against Delta, so they're a 4-game losing streak. And so after Diablo Valley College, they play at Elk Grove against Consumed River College before they're back in Delta on Friday, October 6th.
So if I go tomorrow and they lose, then I'm really not invited again. Huh?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I may still try and make it, but I mean the reality is that when I get there, it's probably going to be in the third set, and it'll be 2-0. And it'll probably be like the last couple of points. So I'll keep up to date with Mark, see where he's at. Maybe I can get here or not.
Yeah, you get there and it's 2-0 and it's 22-7. Huh?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much what it sounds like it would be. So
before you, and then another one, it's same thing with the Tigers. It's a service error, which they need to clean up. I mean, I was telling my uncle that you're gonna see it no matter where you go, D1 or even JC level. You're going to have that, but points where you don't want to give up is after a timeout. There were a couple times when they had timeout, they lost a point just because a bad serve or something like that. And one of it was my cousin. She was serving for 4 or 5 straight. And even my aunt joked, she actually jinxed her. So this time, look, she's going to serve it out. It went in, but it hit the net and it just...
it came right back.
Yeah.
And landed on the wrong side.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's just one of those... I mean, I understand you're going to get tired after serving so much. So, but...
and it's not just hitting it. I mean, it's both sides serve. It's either the serves into the net or long, or even just handling the other team's serve. Mm-hmm. I mean, the serve really is such a big part at times. Maybe you don't give up an ace, but you screw up, trying to on the serve, and all of a sudden you're scrambling and you end up playing a free ball over. Well, you just gave up an opportunity to get an easy point. It's.
And over to Pacific, Andy Shelton. I mean, she's probably got one of the nastiest serves. I mean, she's got a nasty serve, and it's one of two things. Either when she's on, it's perfect. I mean, it's fantastic. But when she's off, it makes it hard. And I think a lot of those service errors that we were talking about, a lot of those were due on her. I mean, she would either hit it over or she would hit it straight in the net because of how hard she hits.
Yeah, but it's...
I was talking about that match against Cal.
Yeah, and it's kind of my point where if you're going to have high service error numbers, you at least need to get some aces to at least make it worth it.
Which she did, but yeah.
Well, but I watched the Portland game that they won on the road, and Andy had 4 aces and 5 service errors in that match. But in the 5th set, they got to a point where they're like, she stopped doing her normal serve because they just wanted to make sure she got it over. They didn't want to risk giving away a point. And I think it's also depending on the score of the game, it should also partly dictate whether you take that risk or not to try to get the ace. And not try to gamble and potentially give away a free point.
A player that we, if you guys really going, I mentioned this even the first game that we saw a game together. Kelly, the freshman Kelly Markham, just beside the last names, have my name, my first name in there. But she's tall, and to the point where all she got to do is just put her hands up in the top of the net, and she just pretty much automatic. It's a slam. We saw that a couple of times. She got 7 kills, and pretty much, if not all of them were just one of the powerful kills where she just throws up and like a slam dunk type of thing. So it's just one of those players that I think is a player to watch.
Well, lots of players to watch. When we come back, we'll talk Pacific at home. What should the atmosphere be like? Will the Tigers pull it off tonight? Match starts at 7. We'll preview it right here. 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting.
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry, and time was running out. In a stunning turn of events, 2016 saw what many called the storm of the century hit California. Over the course of 2 weeks, the storm dropped enough water to make up for much of the drought in the previous year. The citizens became complacent. Individuals stopped switching to drought-resistant lawns. They stopped shortening their showers. They kept the water running while they brushed their teeth. This last week, however, California saw one of its largest reserves devastated. The Oroville Dam began to have issues, and though it did not completely collapse, it began leaking 100,000 cubic feet of water per second. This is a wake-up call. The war is not over. The degrading of California's infrastructure combined with overusage of water could culminate in millions going without the basic needs for life. Do your part. Conserve water. Contact your legislators to let them know you're keeping your eyes on our water infrastructure, and you expect them to as well.
Thousands of cats and dogs each year are housed in animal shelters. Local volunteers and workers help to give these poor animals a second chance. But they can't do it alone. Please go down to your local shelter today to volunteer, donate, or adopt. Your support can help end the 4 million euthanations performed each year on animals. Please help. Give a little to save a lot of life. For more information, visit us at www.humanesociety.org.
Living in a generation where everything is sexualized, teens today are having sex more now than ever. Social standards are changing, relationship expectations and norms are so much different than they used to be, and teens are scared and ashamed to ask for help when it comes to having safe sex. But what if there is a place where these teens can go without being judged? What if there is a place for these teens to go without having to be afraid? What if there was a place for these teens to go to ask the questions they want to ask and receive birth control or health care that they need in order to practice safe sex? Well, there is. Planned Parenthood has been around for 100 years and is the most trusted healthcare provider that believes in health care for all, with no expectations or limitations in those they provide services for. Planned Parenthood is a non-profit organization that runs off of donations, and that's where you can help. Planned Parenthood is asking for donations, no matter how big, no matter how small. Anything can help. According to Planned Parenthood's fact sheet, the teenage pregnancy rate in the United States has declined to its lowest level in the past 40 years due to the increased access of birth control Planned Parenthood has helped provide. You can go online and donate at www.plannedparenthood.org, or you can also call our national toll-free call center at 1-800-798-7092. That's 1-800-789-7092. Go online or call today to make a donation and help be a part of the cause for health care for all. Planned Parenthood. Care no matter what.
Welcome back to 209 Sports, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting. We'll go ahead and hit that
209
now.
Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
JD, Jeff Dominic, along with Paul Meiskin all the way in the far left. In between, we got a fourth person in here, so that's kind of unique. But I got to move over. I forget. I still got to worry about the camera here a little bit. Mr. DJ JOD, Mark Leong as well with us, just hanging out. Pacific volleyball tonight at 7 o'clock versus Santa Clara. I think we kind of already had a consensus saying 4 sets. I think that's kind of what we're talking about. Only because we're looking at the third set, we're kind of like, well, moving on.
Well, that's
we see it as a joke, but it's really, I mean, it's serious.
It's serious
thing.
too, yeah.
So it's a fact. We don't give fake news here.
But
hey, we've been good so far about it. I should say that.
You can joke about it, but it really is. It's a fact, and it's hard not to notice that. 3-10 in the third set. So they, I think maybe we'll win all 3. I don't know. Maybe we're due, right? Because you say we're due to win the third set, Mark.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a good opportunity to clean sweep. Because look at Santa Clara; they were swept both games. The last 2 games. So
and once again, we said it was against good teams.
Sure, but if we're a good team too, and so why can't we?
Yeah, I'm not sitting there saying we're not. I'm just saying
look, they've lost 6 straight sets. If we come out and we take the first 2, they've not that Santa Clara is going to pack up and head home between set 2 and set 3, but it's very easy for a team that kind of just mail it in at that point. And so maybe tonight's the night. We not only win the first 2 sets, but we win that elusive third one as well.
Then we could see Santa Clara being swept 9 straight.
Yeah, they could.
Oh, that would be
sets.
painful.
I have to say sets because 9 straight sets. That's heartbreaking.
That'd be a tough way to start West Coast Conference play with 0-3 with an 0-9 set record.
And we finally won the third set, so it's a good and bad thing for all around.
I think. Yeah, I mean, look. But this is a winnable. Whether we play 3, 4, or 5 sets, as long as we win, that's ultimately the thing that matters.
Well, and I'm looking at it on paper. And of course, it's still so easy to just go ahead and say on paper, yes. But the reality is that these 2 teams are fairly equal in a lot of ways. Santa Clara, they averaged just under 13 sets a game. Pacific, just over 13 sets a game. Santa Clara, they hit 212. Pacific, they were hitting just around. What did I have? Oh my goodness, I had it right in front of me just a second ago. 225. So as far as paper-wise goes, they're even. As far as talent-wise goes, I don't think so. I think that's fair to say. Is that talent-wise, I think Pacific can definitely out-hit Santa Clara.
We talked about the 2. The Tigers last season won both games against Santa Clara. At Santa Clara, they won in 5. At home, they won in straight sets.
I could use a duplicate.
So the Tigers are the favorites, so to speak. We're at home. This is a game the Tigers should win. Whether it's how many sets to be determined, but I in a way I think it's kind of a must win. If they want to try to contend to win the West Coast Conference and be at the top with the BYUs and the San Diegos, this is a game you can't afford to lose. Because those wins, you need to take care of business at home, especially against the lower teams. And Santa Clara is one of those lower teams that you need to take care of business and beat at home.
Well, they got 3 players that are currently, one of them is almost at, I should say, 100 kills. Does Santa Clara. They've got a team. I'm not sitting there saying, I think that so-and-so is going to be, to reckon with, because let's put it this way, Pacific, they have 4. They have 4 players that are over 100.
Yeah, when we faced Cal had a couple players that were over 100 too. At this point in the season, you kind of played enough where, you're going to have players with over 100 kills, and Santa Clara has some good players too that the Tigers are going to have to.
But they only have 2. Like I said, I'm comparing what Pacific has, and if we're looking at everything on paper, Pacific has 4 players that are already over 100 kills. Santa Clara has only 2, and they barely have a third that's just almost there.
Well, and that shows that why they've they've lost in straight sets and against BYU and San Diego. I mean, they're when you're playing 3-set matches and you lose them, you're not going to have a lot of kills to be going around.
True.
I mean, we know the Tigers as a team aren't really reliant on just one person this season compared to last season. And so it's good to see that you've got all those different options for Pacific. The Baptista, the Fleming, Lines, Wine, Andy.
Bears, oh my.
Yeah. Wines, Lines, and Dine.
Yeah. Oh, Coach, if you're listening, let's get a recruit with the last name of Dines. That would be fantastic.
Any more Ines, and I don't know.
You went straight to Cool Runnings. Ines, Vines. But
I'm gonna kiss my lucky egg.
Yeah. Jamaica, we have a bobsled team. But they do have 2 good players, and 3 if you want to actually include Haley Lindbergh. But I mean, is it going to be easy for the Tigers to just basically gang up on? They really only have to gang up on 2 players at this point, and that makes it one-dimensional for Santa Clara.
I think for Santa Clara,
and that's bad, is what I mean.
One of the main star is their senior setter, Kristen Mead, who is averaging career best at 2.84 digs and set in 2017. So that's just probably one of the players. I don't know if that was one of the 2.
No, it wasn't. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, no, I was just saying that I thought that was one. So there's beside her as a setter, that's just someone I think Pacific just had to watch out for.
I think the 2 that I'm really looking at, and so it kind of, and when I say they're becoming, they'd have to almost be one-track mind for Santa Clara, because 2 of those players that I was talking about are in the middle. The middle blockers, Jensen Cunningham and Haley Lindbergh. Both of them are middle blockers. Haley's just at 95 kills. Jensen Cunningham, she's at 148. She's hitting 363. That's a pretty good mark considering that a middle blocker. I mean, I think we have a pretty good middle blocker on our own. And I think she's hitting at a almost close to 400 clip. Is Ashlyn Fleming, but actually she is hitting 388. So I was close. She's hitting close to a 400 clip. So I mean, for Santa Clara, they're going to have to attack the middle, but I think that Pacific can guard that middle.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Tigers are a pretty balanced team. Like, I don't think there's a spot where maybe they're not as elite in a certain position as some teams might, but overall pretty balanced. And if the Tigers just have to concentrate on stopping 1 or 2 players, they'll be all right. I mean, and Santa Clara might be tough in the middle, but there's certainly plenty of options on the outside, or Shelton, Lines, Wine.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Well, yeah, they got Baptista, they got Shelton, they can attack you in many different spots, and that's the best part about it.
Yeah, I mean, last season when we played Santa Clara here, we only had 1 player in double-digit kills. It was Elman with 11, of course. But it's like, I think this is a game where you see a lot of players on our team with, maybe. I mean, it depends if we go 4 or 5 sets. I mean, then the numbers are going to be inflated. But maybe we win in straight sets and you only see 1 person with 11 or 12, and everybody else is 7, 8, 9. I think it should be a pretty balanced offense tonight, just like it's been most of the season, and a Tiger win. I'm still going to go with 4 just because that third set.
It's scary, right? It's just a scary situation. I mean, if I say over under 3.5, you're going to go for over at this point. I mean, just because that's what we're used to.
Oh, I mean, odds, stats the stats say that we've not been very good in the third set. So
yeah, 3-10. I mean, that's all there is to it.
And it's a game that we should win. And so if we're going to win and not win the third set, that means we're playing at least 4.
Right. I mean, and so we'll see. I mean, the only rebuttal I can say behind it, and the only small rebuttal I basically have is, well, last season, at home, we were able to take them three straight sets. It was good. It was an easy win.
That's true, and
that's about all I have.
And we struggled in the third set we were 12-18 in the third set last season, but obviously,
but not against Santa Clara.
Santa Clara at home, we were 1-0 in the third set,
and that's all that mattered. But
keep the momentum going tonight.
That would be my only rebuttal I could say behind it. But I mean, that's all I would have. But nevertheless, I think that anything less than 4 is a win for us. 4 would be predictable. Going to 5 would be disappointing, but at that point we're just getting free volleyball. I mean,
That's what the one guy in the stands likes to say, even though he gets in for free. He always wanted to go 5 so he can get free volleyball, and I'm like, Mike, you got in for free anyways. It's all free volleyball. But you know what? Whether we go 3, 4, or 5 sets, as long as we win, that's ultimately the main thing that matters.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, we had some surprises. I mean, is Emily Baptista, is she going to be the player of the day? I mean, who are we really looking at? Just let's have a little prediction. I mean, who's going to be the star player of the night?
I mean, you're really just flipping a coin, or you're rolling a dice. It's
for fun.
Who's a surprise?
Who's going to be? Okay, yeah.
I'm going Skylar Wine.
Because she struggled, right? I mean,
it's just because we talked about her earlier.
No, I was going to say, Wine. I think she's going to at least have double digit when it comes to kills.
Well, and it depends on how many sets we go to. I mean, if we play 3 sets and take care of business,
we're not going. The reality is that
Mark,
we're not going 3 sets.
The reality is, if you hit 3 sets, the chances and choices that multiple players are going to be in double-digit kills are going to be slimmer than regular. I mean, you'll probably have 1, maybe 2, but really, if you see 3, you have a good chance of winning.
Well, I mean, when we beat Long Beach State in straight sets earlier this season, Fleming had 12 and Skylar had 10, and that was it.
That was it. That sounds about right.
So and then you had a couple with 7, 8, 9, which is what you're going to kind of have. But I mean, I guess sounds like me and Mark are going Skylar Wine. Who you got, Jeff?
Well,
I already know.
I went with the freshman one time, or I've already interviewed.
Hold on, before you make your pick, I'm going to hold up a number behind my computer screen. Mark can see the number, and that dictates the jersey number that she wears.
I'm not going there. I would say that.
No, it's an actual real guess. I'm not trying to be funny.
No, okay. I'm gonna say Ashlyn Fleming.
Oh,
in the middle.
I did have a 1, but there was no 0 afterwards. I thought you were going to go Andy Shelton.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, it was. I think that I think she's going to attack that middle. I think it's going to be a good match for her. I think she'll have double-digit kills, and she's going to be close to double digits in blocks. I'm going to go with that.
Right.
I think she'll have 7 blocks.
All right. So we'll see if Fleming or Wine have bad games, then we know who to blame, right?
There you go. So we'll see how it goes, but fingers crossed. We'll be ramping up all the way till, well, we won't be here till 7, but we will be ramping everything up until 7 o'clock. That's when the first match begins. The first point will be decided. We'll see how it goes from there. When we come back, the NFL, Donald Trump. Need we say more? For the love of Pete's sake, just give me my football. More to come right here when we come back on 209 Sports.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Right. Irvin Magic Johnson. These are just 2 of the many people who could not escape the horrible disease known as HIV. AIDS.gov calculated that 1.2 million people in the U.S. are living with HIV, and 1 in every 8 of them don't even know that they are HIV positive. It is time for everyone to go to their local doctor and get tested. Let's do what we can to make sure we continue the fight against HIV, so that we are no longer hearing sounds like this.
I don't want to die yet!
But instead hearing sounds like this.
I love you, Daddy!
Listen to this message. Please don't ignore. Go get tested, and the life you will save is yours.
Thousands of cats and dogs each year are housed in animal shelters. Local volunteers and workers help to give these poor animals a second chance. But they can't do it alone. Please go down to your local shelter today to volunteer, donate, or adopt. Your support can help end the 4 million euthanations performed each year on animals. Please help. Give a little to save a lot of life. For more information, visit us at www.humanesociety.org.
She's 16 years old, but she looks like she's 25, wearing a tight dress she'll rip off in a shady motel room. She thought this was the life she wanted. She got the money, the clothes, the attention from her pimp, but she also can't imagine living without prostitution. She doesn't think she's a victim. She thinks she's in control, but she can't leave. When she's no longer the sexy little girl they want, she may only see one way out. This girl lived here in Stockton. She's one of thousands of girls in the city who has been sex trafficked but doesn't see herself as a victim. Call the local Stockton Human Trafficking Hotline to report any tips at 209-948-1911. If you see anything, say something. You will be saving a life. And if you are this girl, there is hope. Call 209-948-1911. You are worth so much more.
San Francisco SPCA, a non-profit animals shelter which is to save and protect animals, provide care and treatment. In 2015, the leave release rate for the entire city of San Francisco reached 93%. We imagine a community where every animal has a loving home, where animals don't need the support of San Francisco's recluse and shelters. The SPCA is an independent, local non-profit that receives no government funding and is not part of any national organization. We rely on your support. Come to join us. We can't do this without you. You can go to www.sfspca.org to donate or contact us 415-554-3000.
Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Welcome back. Pacific Tiger Broadcasting 209 Sports. I am JD Jeff Dominic, Mr. DJ Deody, Mark Leon to my left, and Paul Meiskins to my far, far left. And but when we went to our last break, you could hear we were talking about. Over the week 3 in the NFL, a lot of teams did a lot of different things, from kneeling before the anthem, locking arms, some not even coming out until the anthem was over, and and a lot of it was derived over President Trump's comments saying that anybody that kneels should be fired. A lot of that has, and at this point, you know what? I'd like to get your guys' take on it. I've got my own, but I just want my football. I'm tired of politics being involved in the NFL and vice versa, to be honest with you. I just want football. And it's really killing me. It's hurt me with the day that I should be enjoying.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to answer this because I've been wanting to say something about this. And it's just pretty much, I told this to a couple of people already. Like, if I wasn't playing fantasy football, I don't think I really care about football. Really, that's the same thing how I feel with basketball. The only reason why I watch basketball or pay attention to it because of fantasy basketball. Mm-hmm. But if I wasn't doing that, I don't think I'd be really interested.
You'd watch your team, keep up on your team, and that's about it.
Here and there, I'll probably watch it because a lot of games you won't be able to watch it. So I just pay attention to.
Not if you watch the Red Zone.
But anyways, even that, I don't think even that, because if that's the case, then I should care less. But it's to the point where I don't really care. Besides that, I don't know. They should be doing that during the off season when they're not playing football. I just lost a lot of interest when it comes to football. I don't care what they're doing. If they're kneeling down, don't even come out. It's not about that. It's just I just lost interest because, I mean, now they bring politics to every sport, not just football, basketball, and now you're going to have it on baseball. What's next? Wrestling? I mean...
Yeah, leave by wrestling alone.
Are any of us going to be kneeling while we do the broadcast? I mean, look, it's hard to say much about the topic because people get offended very easily.
And it's going for whether you agree with it or disagree with it. It's going to go one way or the other.
People will get offended if you are for or against something, and they will also be offended if you have no opinion on it. So you're really done no matter what.
You're screwed three ways.
That said, I think an overwhelming percentage of the players and coaches or whoever that are kneeling have no idea why they're kneeling.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're, you know...
Oh, you just offended the players.
I'm sure I've offended... Wouldn't be the first time I've offended people.
Right.
I just, I feel like a lot of people don't understand probably why they're kneeling or, I mentioned that Bruce Maxwell kneeled the other day for the Oakland A's, and that became a story because it was the first baseball player that did it, and just the whole thing just bothers me. Like I wish the whole story, I don't like it being a part of sports.
I don't either.
I try to, I'm not that bothered one way or the other like some people are. I think it's a little crazy, Trump's uninviting the Warriors to the White House after Curry already said he was no. It's like, I don't want to go. Well, you're not invited anyway. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's
like 6-year-olds that decided not to go to a friend's birthday party, and then he was like, well, I didn't invite you anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
We're 6 again. Hey, I mean, our country turned 6 years old all of a sudden.
Curry said he wasn't planning to go, but not the whole team. But now for President Trump to say, "Oh, you guys not invited," and now on the hockey side, Pittsburgh Penguins, they said, "Oh, we're coming." Yeah, how many are there are really Americans in that team? So it's one of those.
The whole thing is just ridiculous. There's bigger issues than Trump shouldn't be complaining about Curry saying he's not coming to the White House. I mean, there's bigger issues that a president should be doing. And
he's got a little issue with North Korea and things like that he should be figuring out.
It's causing problems there too, but I don't want to. This isn't the. Let's go to field hockey.
More positive. And this is the point. I mean, yeah, it's frustrating. You're absolutely right. The problem is that we were always more interested in it, but we're more interested in other athletics now because the NFL, which is something that I highly regarded for a very long time, has become this way, and I'm kind of like, I've talked to friends. I talked to a total of 10 friends, and where they're used to, they love fantasy football.
That's how many friends you have?
Yeah, roughly. But
that's more than me.
But out of the 10 people that I've talked to that also play fantasy football, 2/3 of them, 60% of them, the only thing they do now, they didn't even watch football this week. All they did was they would literally check their phones just to see where they were ranking on their fantasy football leagues, and then they just kept on moving. They stopped watching football, and that's a problem.
Well, the NFL's ratings have gone down over the years, and I think a fun debate, and maybe it'd be better off during your fantasy football show earlier in the day, is how many people watched the NFL only because of fantasy football.
Right.
It's funny to see, like tweets, people are idiots, so to speak. They'll tweet at the player, "You didn't give me enough fantasy points," and some of the players are like, "I don't care about fake football. I play real football." And
which is also kind of a lie because we know that the majority of professional players also play fantasy football.
Oh, a lot of them do it, but a lot of them also hate it, and they don't understand why it's actually a positive thing for football because it has people interested in the sport that they're making a living at
a different level
that may not be otherwise. But I mean, as far as the whole politics stuff, it doesn't really bother me or make me not watch NFL. Like, if I'm home, I'm going to watch what game's on, and I'm following my fantasy like most people are. But, if I have a UOP soccer game, I'm Sunday night.
We're more invested in that.
Yeah, we're over here watching soccer instead of the Sunday night football game. So I mean, it's just you would hope a president of a country would be a little more worried about bigger issues in life than Heath doesn't want to come over to my house.
Yeah, or on the other side with the NFL side, or if you kneel, you should be fired.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just a stupid statement.
What's one of our stay in your lane?
Thank you, Ball.
And one of the thing is, I even wrote down on my notes is, it's like going to a music concert where you want to go to a music concert to don't worry about like whatever you have problems with or whatever. You just want to enjoy the show. But now when you're trying to watch a game. And I think this is different from being live in person, watching it, than on TV. Because on TV, they're going to bring up, let's see who's kneeling down, who's standing up, who's locked arm, who's behind, who's not out there, whatever. But I don't care about that. I want to hear them talk about football, who's been struggling, what players.
I think it's sports should be an entertainment. They should be something.
That's what it is.
And
should be.
It's now becoming more like you can't just simply watch a football game and enjoy it for 3 hours. Now you're gonna get, like you said, on TV, you're gonna be like, let's see who's kneeling, and they're gonna talk about it, and it's like, it's gone from just, not mindless, entertainment. It's now you got all these other aspects of it.
Yeah, especially when they're doing the national anthem, you see the cameras looking for both benches to see who's kneeling down, and then once the national anthem's done and the broadcast start talking, we saw Marshall Lynch sitting down again. Or
I like my sports without politics. Thanks.
I do too. I'm the same exact way, and I think also to Mark's point is I think it's a great question. When you go to a concert, insert band name, insert group name here. Why did you go to the concert? To watch that artist perform. You didn't go over there to watch extracurricular activities of him kneeling. You went to watch him perform, and that's all we wanted to see was a performance, i.e., entertainment.
Yeah, but
now they're taking it away.
There's a lot of people, and not just in sports or music, but celebrities or people that are well known. Like, people care what their stance is on things, probably a little too much. And it's like, it's like a singer all of a sudden making all these big statements on politics. Like, it's like, you're not famous because of politics. You're famous because you sing. Like, I don't need to, just be quiet about stuff.
I mean, they have the freedom to have their own opinions, and that's fine. Especially because you mentioned celebrities talk about where they stand. But when it comes to acting or performing, they're not going to stop a show and say, I stand on this. They're going to continue to do what they've been doing, what they're paid to do.
Yeah,
and that's entertain a lot of people.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, like I said, athletes have a particular platform, and I applaud it when they use it in a certain way. This is not when it's a game day. It's a different scenario, because that's the time that I'm there to watch something specific. But you talk about an actor or actress or a performer that does. They'll have those infomercials on, like SPCA. They'll say something and it's a good 2-minute span on a commercial. Hey, I recognize so and so. He's famous or she's famous. I mean, those are perfect platforms to do it on a different kind of level. You're taking an experience that I learned to enjoy in a different way.
Yeah, and it's not. I don't think it's totally on the athlete or the famous person, so to speak. I think part of it also is because public automatically feels like, you've got to make a statement because you're Steph Curry, one way or the other, and so they feel compelled, like they have to say or do something. And then when they say or do something, it's going to have some people happy and some people not, no matter what they do. And so it's, like I said, I like my sports without the politics.
Well, let's get out of that. Let's
pro hockey.
Push the bad juju out, and when we come back, there's a lot of athletics coming up this week for Pacific, for Delta. We'll recap. We'll get you all set up for the rest of this week. More to come.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
Attention UOP veterans. The Veterans Resource Center is your campus location for the education benefits you've earned. The VRC is located in the front of the main gym in the center of campus. The VRC has visits from VA health professionals, benefit experts, and employment specialists. So come on down to the VRC, where so doesn't printing is free.
Living in a generation where everything is sexualized, teens today are having sex more now than ever. Social standards are changing, relationship expectations and norms are so much different than they used to be, and teens are scared and ashamed to ask for help when it comes to having safe sex. But what if there was a place where these teens can go without being judged? What if there was a place for these teens to go without having to be afraid? What if there was a place for these teens to go to ask the questions they want to ask and receive birth control or health care that they need in order to practice safe sex? Well, there is. Planned Parenthood has been around for 100 years and is the most trusted healthcare provider that believes in health care for all, with no expectations or limitations in those they provide services for. Planned Parenthood is a non-profit organization that runs off of donations, and that's where you can help. Planned Parenthood is asking for donations, no matter how big, no matter how small. Anything can help. According to Planned Parenthood's fact sheet, the teenage pregnancy rate in the United States has declined to its lowest level in the past 40 years due to the increased access of birth control Planned Parenthood has helped provide. You can go online and donate at www.plannedparenthood.org, or you can also call our national toll-free call center at 1-800-798-7092. That's 1-800-789-7092. Go online or call today to make a donation and help be a part of the cause for health care for all. Planned Parenthood. Care no matter what.
Thousands of cats and dogs each year are housed in animal shelters. Local volunteers and workers help to give these poor animals a second chance. But they can't do it alone. Please go down to your local shelter today to volunteer, donate, or adopt. Your support can help end the 4 million euthanations performed each year on animals. Please help. Give a little to save a lot of life. For more information, visit us at www.humanesociety.org.
We play all the hits and everything in between. Hip-hop,
I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch.
rock,
Know what you want? Welcome to the jungle, punk.
Baby, gonna me now.
and even local music.
Only you have what it takes to know why. Know why?
Only here on Tiger Radio at www.tigerradio.net.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
It's still taking me time to get used to it. I'm sorry. Back here, JD Jeff Dominic, Paul Meiskins all the way in the far end, and Mr. DJ JOD, Mark Leon. Mr. Paul, better make sure I say that correctly.
That's an error. He don't go by Mr. Paul.
What do you want?
I don't know. I've been called all sorts of things.
We could. I'd have to end the show to tell you other things. But
I was gonna say they're not all suitable for airing.
I mean, we're online, so I guess we could get over.
We could, but let's just not. Thank you all for tuning in. Kind of recapping, finally getting close to the end of the show. This is the final segment. Got about 10 minutes left. This week is more effective than compared to last week. We only had one home event last week, and that was the Friday night soccer match, women's soccer versus CSU Bakersfield. This week, a little bit different. Got women's volleyball tonight at 7. Women's soccer versus Gonzaga at 7 on Friday, and then on Sunday you have women's soccer once again at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, actually kind of a light light weekend, really.
Still, well, it's better than last week.
Well,
that's my point.
We did have volleyball last week on Thursday.
At home?
Or what am I thinking?
No, it wasn't at home.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is what I'm talking about is home matches.
Oh yeah, I guess.
I mean, because if we want to go there, then that's fine. Because women's volleyball plays Thursday, women's volleyball plays on Saturday. You know what I mean? I was just kind of saying at home.
True. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a pretty quiet. You know, the two soccers. The one difference is the Sunday soccer games in the afternoon instead of nighttime. So,
which this is this is a good time to have soccer. If we're gonna have it during the day, I mean, I what was it last Friday? Man, I tell you what, there was mosquitoes and it got cool real quick. And you could tell it was definitely September.
Well, compared to a month ago when we were dying.
Yeah, we were sweating. And
now it's at the times where you can play in the afternoon and it's nice and comfortable. And it's not the opposite of a month ago. If we were playing in the afternoon, we would be dying of heat.
Yeah, we'd be playing at 11 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and now because of the weather change, we're about to be in October. So we can play during the day. We don't have to wait till the nighttime.
Yeah, I mean, so where are you going to be at Friday, Paul? I know are you going somewhere? Do you know where you're going, I should say, yet? Or do they tell you later on this week?
I can tell you where I'm going to be every Friday for about the next 2 months.
No, he's talking about
what game?
What game?
You do know every game? Okay, I wasn't sure.
I will be in lovely Livermore.
For what game?
Washington versus Livermore.
I mean, it makes sense.
Exciting.
I mean, you're going to be in Livermore. It has to be.
But I was in San Ramon last Friday, and that wasn't for San Ramon. But I would rather be at women's soccer, but unfortunately, actually, I lied. I was looking at the wrong one.
Okay, so
let's redo it again.
No.
So, Paul, where are you going for this Friday?
I'm going to Brentwood. Beautiful Brentwood.
That was way different.
I'm going to be seeing Liberty against Heritage.
Realest guys in the room, how you doing?
But I'd still rather be at women's soccer against Gonzaga and get a Vuvuzela.
Vuvuzelas. Did they say how many fans get Vuvuzelas?
No,
I didn't read it.
I think Vuvuzela should be given out to the first 0 people. Those things are annoying.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's going to help. It would help with
a cup of hay.
To 0?
Yes.
Cup of haters.
Look, I love soccer, and that World Cup or Olympics, I forget which it was, where
World Cup
fans were playing those Vuvuzelas.
That was World Cup.
It just felt like a swarm of bugs the whole time. I'm not. That said, I would like one of the Vuvuzelas. So
me too. I just want to go. If I won't go, I think Jeff make that happen.
I'll hook you up.
I am a fan of giveaways. If you haven't known, doesn't matter if it's bobbleheads, horns, trumpets, shirts, scarves.
Trumpets? Did you say trumpets?
It's not just big. It's huge.
Boy, you are really getting all the sound effects out. I don't think you've used that many though for the last month.
Oh, what else do I have? Well, yeah, you know why? Because I'm. Oh, this one's too low.
Pathetic loser.
That one, though.
Oh, yeah. No. We didn't need to hear that one loud to know. But
I mean, we all knew.
Look, I think it's cool that they're giving away different stuff. They've given out the scarves at soccer, the Vuvuzela. When basketball starts, they've got some good giveaways for that too. I think it's good. I mean, giveaways help encourage fans that may not come otherwise to come, and it's good to get as much fan support as possible.
And real quick on the women's soccer, I think that people see the record. I think people look at the record and kind of get turned off by it, but at the same time, I think that if you've been a fan for Pacific Tigers, at least right now on what we're talking about, this subject, women's soccer, you're going to see a good product still, a growing product, I think is a better way to say it. You're going to see a growing product right in front of your eyes. They're better than they were last year, and they're getting better every game.
Like I said, you're not going, like maybe in the year or 2 years ago, you're not going and seeing them lose 5-0, and you're like, well, that was
a waste of 2 hours of my time.
Yeah, that was miserable. They might lose, they might win, but
they might tie.
I'll take that too.
I don't know what else there is. Every time.
I might as well put a tie.
We used all three, but I mean, look, no matter what, they're playing competitive soccer. You can you go, and even if they lose, you're like, that was, they had their chances. The games are fun to watch, and if you love soccer, obviously it's nicer when you win, and the men's team is a little more fun to watch because they're so good. But it's an enjoyable couple hours to watch soccer, and it's still much quicker than a baseball game.
That's true, and especially unless you want to sit there for 3 hours. I'm actually ballparking a little bit, but yeah, 3 hours.
The baseball game, I went to the A's game last night, and the game was done by 9:30. Started at 7. Little after 7. The quickest baseball game of the year was the one I actually drove to go to, and
you're not working,
and I wouldn't have minded it going a little longer.
But he can't do that whenever it goes to the sports game. I don't understand it.
No, it is what it is.
But no, I mean, I think that if you go to Knowles Field this weekend, Friday or Sunday, or both, to be fair, look at the product. I don't think you need to look at the scoreboard necessarily, but look at the product. And if they're shooting 20, if they take 20 shots like they did last week, Friday, they're going to be a good team to watch. I really think that. Moving forward.
If you don't have something else planned Friday night, why not? Go out, get a Vuvuzela, make some noise, have some fun at the soccer game.
Heck yeah.
If you're annoyed with football,
and bring them Sunday just to annoy Paul.
Do it and see what happens. No, but hey, Sunday, if you're tired of all the issues with politics and the kneel downs, or your fantasy team is no longer any good,
see the other type of football.
Yeah, come out and watch soccer instead. Enjoy the day, and it's nicer to get out of the house and to sit in front of your TV and deal with some of the the negative stuff in life.
So this weekend, once again, soccer, women's soccer, 2 matches of women's soccer. Today there'll be one Friday, one Sunday, and I'm just kind of looking at it. They play Portland. What are our expectations of this? Obviously, just good matches. But if they go 0-1-1, is that what we're looking for? And could they do that? I'd love to say 2-0, but
yeah,
I think
we talked about it. Then we'd have that little padded room for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Look, it would be great if they
fresh as a daisy.
If they could somehow get at least one positive result, and by positive I mean not a loss. I think that would be a positive weekend. If they
like 0-2.
Yeah, just if they get at least one tie, I think it would be a positive weekend. They want more than just one tie. They want to win. Of course. But I think if they somehow got a win, say they went 1-1, I think that would be an outstanding weekend. Look, that would mean they're up to win number 4. And they got one conference win all of last season. So if they can start off West Coast Conference play with a win, whether it's Friday or night or Sunday afternoon, that absolutely would be a good start.
I think another one, as long as they come out from both games uninjured, because
they're already dealing with injuries too.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So they don't want to deal with another injury. So I think I'm hoping for a 1 win, at least 1 tie. But even if they get into the losing side of it, as long as they're showing product and they don't lose, I don't think they're going to lose any big. They're going to keep it close.
Yeah, even if they lost both games, say 1-0 or 2-1 or 2-0, as long as they're close competitive games, I think that for me is the biggest thing. Wins and losses are not, are important, but you want to see them competitive. If they go out there and they lose 5-0, then you're going to be like, maybe we're
against Gonzaga, a hot team right now. I wouldn't sit there. I would hate to say 5-0 because that would be just a poor interview later on that night or later on that evening. But if it's 2-0 or 2-1, okay, and competitive.
You want to win or lose. You want to feel good about, all right, the teams played well. We didn't win if we didn't win, but there's still things to be positive about. And and almost all their games this season, you could say that for them. There's stuff to work on, stuff to improve and get better, but they are improving. They are getting better, and they got 2 more games this weekend to continue to improve.
A lot of product still out there. Just keep an eye out on everybody. But nevertheless, just once again, volleyball tonight, soccer's Friday, soccer Sunday.
Tomorrow, volleyball for Delta too. So
anything going on Friday?
No.
How about Saturday? Any football?
I close that up, but I know there's women's soccer tonight. Today, I think in a couple hours, or I think
actually it starts.
They're playing right now.
Starts right now.
So,
if you want to go to that, you're late.
Yep, exactly. Well, we kind of got other demands here at the moment, but
the Big 8, which a matchup. So,
field hockey
non-conference.
Yeah, field hockey's not playing this weekend, but Creek was named America East Offensive Player of the Week.
Nice.
So she had 4 goals and an assist in 2 games. So
I think she got like 10 points in last week.
And Delta does play Saturday, September 30th at Diablo Valley College. So there you go. There's your wrap up. Make sure you try and get out there to go to something. But for Mr. Paul Meiskens, Mr. DJ JOD, Mark Itliong, I'm Jeff Dominic saying have a great rest of your week. This is 209 Sports. See you then.
209 Sports on Tiger Radio and on the 209 Sports YouTube channel.
In 2015, California entered one of the worst droughts in state history. The LA Times reported that snowpack would only meet 5% of California's needs, and every resident in the state would have to cut back on water usage by 35% to meet the bare minimum requirements for sustainable reserves. The reservoirs were running dry,